Life could be a dream. Life could be a dream. Do, 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 shampoo.
And then, you know, history class is funny. It's a different market in that people go in there a lot of times and say, what do you have that tastes like Bud Light? What do you have that tastes like Miller Lite? So it's really not a very sophisticated craft beer drinker spot. We do have some different beers at Kate. I mean, we do rotate the beers a lot, but it really is more traditional style beers. And El Weirdo is a little more experimental.
Yeah.
But people, you know, if you gave that habanero sour to someone who drinks Miller Lite, they'd be like, what is this? Yeah.
No, that was like one of our favorites because it was really, really refreshing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's got to be different. But the food there is amazing too.
Well, thank you.
I think our favorite is like, my favorite is the wings.
Yeah.
Y'all's wings at history class is amazing. And then I want to say like, the burgers. Dude, I don't think there's anything that's bad that's there.
I like to think it's pretty good. That's really the brainchild of Dan Magner, who actually was homecoming king in Moseley in 1997. I always tease him about that. But she used to start roadhouses and Carrabba's for those franchises. So he would move there and help them open. And all those recipes are his. And so nothing in history class was like Allan's family wing recipe.
Yeah. But there for a while, you were like, for history class, because everything is nostalgia that's in there. You guys were pretty much you bought the Smitty's plane, right?
That was given to us, actually.
Oh, I remember seeing that on Facebook. It's been years now.
Yeah.
But I remember you were like the one that went after it and has it.
Yes, in a way. So Kevin Wattenbarger, who actually lives in your neighborhood, is a commercial agent in town. He's like one of my best friends, even from high school. He played football with me. He actually was in the National Guard. And he is an awesome guy. And the Smitty's building was being torn down. And he called the owners. And the owners were like, I don't want the plane. And he's like, well, I was like, I don't have time to get it. And he's like, well, I'm going to put it in one of my warehouses. I'll go get it for you.
Yeah.
And so that came from, and that's, I always say that one of my few good skills is surrounding myself with amazing people that I get credit for the nice things the good things that they do.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and so like Kevin's one of those, the building of history class, the physical building was a bank auction that he literally said, the building across the street from your house, which we live behind history class, is in a bank auction. You should buy it. Instead of, he could have bought it and sold it to me. Yeah. He said, here's how you buy it through the bank auction. And then I went and bought it. Well, won the bid. And then he's like, now you got to go pay for it in full. And I was like, oh, I'm missing 90. I need 90 grand. I got to go sell some stocks. He's like, I'll let you borrow the 90 grand for free. I ended up giving $1,000 more like a week later. Yeah. And so, you know, it looks, people think, I don't know. I'm the luckiest guy in the world, and like I just know amazing people. Yeah. And even the building history class, Kevin could have been like, I'll sell you the contract for $100 grand. I'd be like, sure. Yeah. You know, so he's just, you know, that
is a great story, and we kind of did start, but we don't have to. Well, it's kind of funny because most of the people that I have on the show, I just like start recording and then we just start talking. Sure. Well, because a lot of people they freak out because they're like, oh, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to? And then I'll just sit here and start talking, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we're recording. And they're like, what? We've been recording this whole time. I'm like, hey, I can cut out anything that you want, but right now, you feel comfortable, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on a bunch of podcasts.
You have been, but other people.
Totally. And so, I just didn't know if you were going to be like an official, or had some people have like this. I've been on podcasts where it's like, here's my questions, and they're not even listening to what you say. And then you're like, here's the next question. And you're like, I just answered that. Man, so it's not a conversation, it's a question.
When I was running for office, that was one of the things. I went on to several local podcasts. Right. And a couple of them didn't even get published. Right. But it was like, dude, when you say podcast, first of all, I look at it as it's going to be a conversation. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a little bit more intimate. And just, what is your views on this? And it's like, dude, like, and then you go into some of these podcasts and it's like question after question after question. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, and this is the reason why I think a local podcast, like what I'm doing, when you look at someone like you, been in the community for forever, owns several restaurants where you're servicing the community, because it is servicing the community.
Oh, it's a service-based business.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you look at that, though, it's like, who's Allan Branch? Well, unless someone knows you, you know, you really don't know. And then it's just word of mouth. But then you have something like this and you're like, this is an episode. This is an hour and a half long, 2 hours long.
Right.
This is who this guy is. This is what he's into. These are his hobbies. This is his family.
Sure.
This is what kind of person, because I think it's important that people know where they're putting their money nowadays.
Sure.
Even though I love your food, I love the beer, but the person that's behind it, you know, if you know, you want to get to know who that person is. And I think something like this is probably the best way of doing it.
Yeah. People want to buy from people.
Yep.
And then I think too, like most interviews, and the reason why a more intimate conversation works is because most people have this facade of professionalism.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, if this was the news station, you would have a whole different version of the question. It would be more a political answer and more of a polished answer. And so long form podcasts like this are a better way to understand someone's, you know, personality, insecurities, character traits, those kind of things.
Yeah. So no, that's the reason why, like, that's why we got started. Mainly for people, even if you start to look at elections, because the way that I look at it is I spent $4,200 just to have a voice and to say something, and just so you can get on the news, just so you can go out there. And I think, local podcasts also go after that as well. Yeah. And so speaking of that, we'll come back to the business side, but I did want to ask you something.
Yeah, ask.
Okay. So Sam Peebles is a really good friend of mine. Yeah. And apparently you know him.
We've only met one time. I know his brother Anthony much better.
Yeah.
But we were all homeschoolers.
So he's like, when you get him on your podcast, one of the things that you should ask him about is, are you still looking to run for mayor?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Fuck, that's awesome, dude.
I put that out a long time ago. I haven't filed yet because, and I need to talk to Nina Ward, the supervisor of elections, but apparently once you file, you can no longer talk to the elected officials in things that you might be voting for later. And you also have to start filing your paperwork. So it doesn't really behoove me to file until really November or December. So officially, I'm not filed. There are people who have filed for other seats, but I've announced it, and I don't say things and then not doing them.
Yeah. So what the Panama City, that's every 2 years?
It's a 2-year term, correct?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Is Doc running again?
I had a meeting with him 2 weeks ago. Very nice meeting. I think he's a nice man.
Yeah.
I think he's running. He didn't say either way in that conversation. I have a feeling he seems to be still excited about the position and wanting to run. So we'll find. Yeah.
Yeah, you've done so much with downtown Panama City, though, and I know you got other works that I want to get into, too, because I saw you did a live stream the other day from the top of a building somewhere, and I want to get into that. But one of the things going into a lot of downtown, especially from, I want to say, actually at the start, like history class down to El Weirdo, getting down there towards CNG and all that, that area has become somewhere great to walk around. Yeah. Dude, when I was growing up...
Same. I didn't hang out downtown at all. I was a mall kid. Well, not that my parents... I was really a skating rink kid. Where I was a skating rink. But yeah, downtown, I was born in 1980. I'm 43. I'll be 44 this year. It was not a place that you hung out with. Certainly not me. I didn't grow up downtown or anything like that. So... it's getting better. It's come a long way. You know, people attribute a lot of times history class to like the start of revitalization. I think Hurricane Michael was. There were people before us. Relief Skate Shop was there. Hughes Salon was there. CNG was there. And I didn't even know, like when you walk into Relief Skate Shop, it's like the coolest looking skate shop in the world. Yeah. It looks like something you'd see. Like, I didn't know the buildings could even look cool. I was like, this looks like a building from New York. Yeah. And so I just didn't even know we had buildings like that in our downtown. They were just covered in stucco and drywall. Yeah. So, but then we decided we lived right behind history class, my wife and children and I, and we bought that building in 2016, and we started renovation in 17.
Yeah. Downtown Panama City does actually have a lot to offer, but you know, back when I was growing up, especially getting into high school, college years, you know, when family would come down and visit, it was kind of like the place to go antiquing. But then there was nothing, there was nothing that was really down there to go, because that was before Trigo. That was before, I mean, there was no restaurants. I mean, that's the reason why when House of Henry first opened up, I was like, man, this is awesome. Yeah. History class came, and then you got Rose and...
Thistle and Thorn, beautiful space, awesome owners.
Yeah. And then so it's just like, but I think a lot of what you've done has not just been bringing something unique, but you've also started kind of like a trend down there, because more businesses have come when you start talking about Thistle and Thorn and all that.
Yeah,
more businesses are coming, and then it's brought a little bit more life down into that area. And then people are like, hey, you know what? It is a good idea to go ahead and rent down here. It is a good idea to go after that business that I was thinking about starting up. And I think we see a lot of that. What I want to see happen, though, being a resident of Lynn Haven, I'd like to see that here.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially, but I mean, I know.
Well, I talked to the CRA director of Lynn Haven 3 weeks ago about the things that we did and his challenges on Florida Avenue right there.
Yeah.
And I said, and I've told this to Sam too, I'm willing to show them everything we changed. It's government getting in the way of private investment is really what it boils. Literally, the things that we've done downtown have been removal of ordinances that had prevented things. People like to attribute the streetscapes. Streetscapes was a nice icing on the cake. It was breweries were not allowed downtown. Awnings weren't allowed downtown. Skateboarding was illegal downtown. Murals were illegal downtown. All those cafe seating, getting people to sit out on the sidewalk. Those were all things that any city can do very quickly. It's about, does the citizens support it, and is the elected officials brave enough to make change?
Yeah. So. And then that comes down to the zoning issues. And
those are all fixable, super fixable, super fixable. And so like when we looked at, investment follows confidence, you said that people are opening businesses downtown, and it does. So like I was, the worst thing that could happen in history class is we open and then fail, because it just furthers like, well, don't open your business downtown. That's a place that you fail. And the owners of businesses had gotten older. I'm 43. I'm quickly turning into the old guy. Right. And so your market, your customers, that a district can easily turn into where all the owners are older, and you need younger people bringing in new demographics with new ideas. And that's what you're seeing now is this sort of this young Jenny Kelly of Bookish. I said, Jenny, you're going to inspire way more people than this old guy ever could.
Yeah.
And because she's making entrepreneurship, female entrepreneurship, cool. Yeah. Right. And so I think getting government out of the way of people is it's very easy. It's just removal of ordinances.
Yep. Small government, and that's definitely cutting the red tape and things of that nature. What are actually some of the biggest challenges that you face starting up your business, any of your businesses down in Panama City? Like 100%. Number one.
Yeah, the number one, City Hall. Period. Your city is a reflection of how well and how inviting your city hall is of new ideas and new information, and so literally from the get-go, history class, we almost gave up on history class because they had passed a brand new fats, oils, and grease ordinance, a grease trap ordinance, which you do need to have grease traps for restaurants. Grease traps catch grease that have come down. Say you wash a dish that has bacon fat in it. Well, that fat goes into the drain, into the sewer system, clogs things up. You need to have a contraption to catch it. But what manufacturers do of grease traps is they go to cities like Lynn Haven and Panama City, and they say, here's an ordinance for grease traps. You don't have a grease trap ordinance. We've already written it for you. It just so happens to be perfectly written for our equipment, to meet where our equipment's the only one that will work. And so our city had adopted this ordinance that didn't actually really follow Florida Plumbing Code, didn't follow Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade's like the strictest ordinances, the strictest everything. And it was going to be $80,000 in grease traps to open it was the same grease traps that Golden Corral had. I'm like, this kitchen is 8 by 10. Why are you telling me how big my grease traps should be? You should only care about the interception of grease. How many times I empty the thing, the capacity is up to me.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be telling me how many seats to have in my restaurant, how many times to mop the floor. You should just, if I come in there and the grease trap's full, find me, right? But then get out of my way. Don't tell me how to run my business.
Yeah. And
there's all kind of math equations that city do, but it's every project we've ever done, including even ones now, are met with people who are here to help, who have never been entrepreneurs before, never risked their asses to make a decision, and they don't study other cities, and they don't realize that time is money. Yeah. And even in this, we're doing a liquor bar next to history class. We are delayed via the city by about 4 months right now, which is about a $30,000 delay. And they don't realize that most people would have closed the doors up and been like, you bankrupted me. But unfortunately, I don't quit.
Yeah. 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 You see a lot of that with, I guess, building as well. We saw that at the county level a lot. I got a buddy of mine. He's a pretty decent developer here. And he tells me sometimes, yep, the county just cost me this amount of money. The city just cost me this amount of money. They just cost me this much because they pushed back stuff. It came all the way down to a shrub. Like literally in development, a shrub, because he didn't have the whatever type of species that it was going to be for the engineer. And it was like, are you kidding me? This is what you're holding me back for? And this is the reason why it's got to be another weight. Right. Yeah. So I've heard stories of this nonsense, and that's just, especially if you're looking at the longevity of what it is that someone is trying to do. Right. It's like, I'm trying to bring more business and more revenue to, because the more money I make, the more you make.
Well, especially in Panama City, we have a merchant fee, which is basically another sales tax. But there's only 2 cities in Florida that have a merchant fee, Panama City and Panama City Beach. So history class pays $3,700 a month in just an extra tax that you wouldn't, if we were in Lynn Haven, we wouldn't have that tax. And so there's a consumption tax in Panama City. They call it the merchant fee. So you think it would be very incentivized. It's hard to make government act as efficient as business. That's almost impossible, because they're spending your money. They're not spending their own money. When you and I spend our money, it'd be like if your dad or mom gave you a check for $50,000 and said, buy a car. You'd be a little more loose with the decision. But if it's my money that I earned, I'm like, spending that money hurts. And I'm going to make a really quick, well-researched, but very quick decision. And people don't realize, in government, they don't realize that weeks mean thousands of dollars. And for some projects, that kills you. So...
All right, so tell me a little bit about you guys are going to do a rooftop bar.
We are.
Where is that going to be?
Yeah, so we bought 436 Harrison Avenue. It's in the 400 block. It's 1 block away from history class. I got to tell you the story of the build. The building was built as faux hand furniture, faux hand Chavers furniture. So Chavers self-storage over here, that was their family. They had a furniture store there. It was actually certified as a bomb shelter in the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's poured concrete. It's like a bunker. I mean, it's like a parking garage, basically, with brick in it. And
this is right next to the art museum.
It's close, yeah. I would say within 30 yards of it. It's just down from Tom's, almost across the street from House of Henry. And so it's beige. Most people don't even notice it's covered in stucco, but there's brick underneath it. It took me 4 years to get it under contract from the owner. I kept harassing her every few months. Hey, you want to sell your building? No. Hey, you want to sell your building? No. Eventually it was, yes, leave me alone. And so we got the building under contract. And so we're doing condos in this 3rd and 4th floor. We've pre-sold 3 of those, paid $1.5 million for that building. We have other investors. It's a project with my sister, Lacey Counts and Stephen Counts. And then Tracy Johnston and Tim Johnston, who used to own the McDonald's in town. They're partners in the project as well. And we're doing a rooftop bar on the top. We haven't figured out the name of it yet. Or what it's going to look like, but I got to figure out how we're going to finance it because we're buying it from ourselves. The reality of that project, what people don't realize about projects is like we're getting our construction loan, which is a $4 million loan. And when a bank, people like to look at real estate developers and just like, oh, no big deal. But when you get a loan that size, you have signed your home to that loan. It's like, if this messes up, come get my home. And so the joke is, if this doesn't work, you might see me Jed Clampett style with everything in my truck driving up Harrison Avenue. And so it's scary. It is. It's scary to think that I could lose everything I have on a project. And it's a new product. So we're selling condos and there's no comparables. Yeah. Right. So it's very easy. When you see people build the same thing over and over, when you see franchises pop up or the same kind of apartments pop up, it's that way for a reason, because money follows confidence and confidence follows a pattern. And so when you introduce when someone says you should do something new, it's like banks don't like new. No. New means big risk. Yeah. The first person to do a new product, a condo, is guessing on numbers and hoping people see the value in that. Yeah. And it's tough. It is. It's tough. I mean, we've sat on that building. It's $100,000 in just holding costs just since we purchased the building. So it's an expensive game that you don't see money for much later. So
yeah. So are you touching anything on Panama City Beach?
I own no property in Panama City Beach. My wife and I have properties in Millville and St. Andrews and kind of up near 23rd Street. but nothing in Panama City Beach.
Yeah. Yeah. I was curious on how you are expanding right now. If you're just staying in.
Well, Panama City Beach is a
Not,
different.
and let me take that back. You're expanding,
Yeah.
but I just meant like, how far, are you going, like as far as, the projects that you're getting started on?
Well, I love Panama City Beach. Just like anybody does. It's a different sort of product. If you're looking at a condo on the beach or a short-term rental, that's a whole different system of a business. It's like, why doesn't McDonald's sell pizzas? That's different equipment. It's a different menu. It's a different problem. They got cheese issues. It's mozzarella versus, it's a whole different thing. And so we initially, when we had sold a software company in 2015 and had some cash, and we bought some little quadplexes and a couple little houses, my wife, because we wanted to learn how real estate works. We wanted to do small stuff before we do big stuff. And then we had a chance before the hurricane to buy Boyette and Casey and Sweet Magnolias in Millville, which I love. I think Millville is a gem, much like Lynn Haven. Like the best days of downtown Lynn Haven and Millville have not happened yet. And that's the next place to buy, in my opinion. And so we looked at Millville, but the reality is when I studied cities and investing, people who scatter, you need a cheerleader. And I'm a cheerleader. See, my hat says Panama City. I'm a cheerleader, right? And so like a blighted area needs a cheerleader, And so I knew that if I started putting money in other parts of even Panama City and cheerleading everywhere, I wouldn't have the impact in it. And that's how I fail, is not trying to impact a certain area. Now, downtown doesn't need me. Downtown's flourishing. People are doing projects that I didn't even know they're doing projects now.
Yeah.
And events are happening without me having to host them and sponsor them. And so downtown's on a path now. So I would consider investing in other places, parts of Panama City and Bay County. And so at the time, though, downtown needed my focus. So we didn't even look in Panama City Beach.
Yeah. So. No, I think you're right with the Lynn Haven thing. I know me and my wife talked about a couple things. We were kind of interested in doing, don't know if it's necessarily the right time. But okay. So what the cool thing, and I'm going to swing back around to the mayor thing. Mm-hmm. The cool thing that I like about someone like you running for mayor, and again, I don't vote for Panama City. Yeah. My parents still live there though.
Cool. So I got 2 votes.
Yeah.
I got 2, everybody. I got 2.
The interesting thing about it is about the red tape, about what's holding the city back, those types of issues. I mean, we can get caught up on bullshit politics on the Marina all day long. Yeah. You could talk about that with St. Joe, and but the main thing is when you start talking about actual seeing these areas blow up, but blow up in the right way.
Sure.
I think, when it comes to big corporate interests coming in and taking over a small town that small area of Panama City, I'm against that.
Sure.
Local guys like you. I grew up here. I went to Bay High.
Keep the money in here.
I want to be part of the community.
Yeah.
I want to open up, and I want to do that here. I think those types of businesses, man, dude, I just love seeing that because it's like it's really hard. When I was in the military, that was kind of like one of the things. Like a lot of us, several guys would be like, "Oh, I just want to go home. I'm going to start up a pizza shop, or I'm going to have a bar, or I'm going to have a whatever." And I mean, that's kind of like the American thing. Is you want to get back into your community. You want to serve it. And sometimes, you're going to serve it in food service.
Sure.
But I think that's awesome. And like I said, I think that's probably where you're going to do the best with that because you understand what's holding things back.
Yeah, I think most government is broken, and but I don't think they're. I'm not going to talk about federal. I'm just talking about Panama City. I have not experienced a boogeyman. I've only experienced occasional really big egos with people who have experienced authority for the first time.
Yeah,
and I think too. When you've done a position for a long time and we've always done it this way, there's inertia, and someone coming in and questioning what you do and how you do it. If change takes a humble mind, which is rare to find in positions of authority, of going like, I remember one time I was meeting with Jenna Halagus, and she was meeting with city people with me, and she said, Allan's not here to ruin this neighborhood. I'm like, I live here. I live behind history class. I'm not trying to make this
I
a
have
dangerous
kids here.
place. Yeah, my
family's here.
She was like 12 years old. I'm like, my daughter's 12 and she walks this neighborhood. You don't want to make this place dangerous? And so, but change, no matter what you do at any level in your community, has friction. Like there's people that hate me, that think I'm the devil, and that think I'm here to just create alcoholism, and I don't really even drink that much. And and I give away more money from history class than I bring in, and so that friction and that adverse, people like change. People want progress. They don't want inconveniences.
Yeah.
And change, especially as you get older, it becomes like, whoa, what happened to the road? What happened? Where did the parking go? Or what's this thing? Or even my neighbors in downtown, they had to all of a sudden start parking further away from their buildings. And I got comments like, well, I used to be able to park right next to my building, and now I can't because of history class. And I'm like, yeah, but your building value doubled, and now when you sell it for $1 million, you should thank me.
Yeah.
But people, I just know when it rains, I get rained on now when I walk into my office. And so change is tough.
People don't like that innovation. They don't like that spark from the human mind that is, not against, but something that's different.
Yeah.
When, obviously, man, dude.
This is, if Liquid Death is watching this is delicious.
Yeah, Liquid. So I'm back on my cut. Dude, I gained 17 pounds over the election.
Really?
Yeah, from the start to, and so I was like, man, my wife was like, hey, you ready to get back in the gym? So I was like,
I would have thought the opposite, because most of the time you hear people knocking on doors and they just
Well, for me, that was, first of all, me knocking on doors, it gained weight, because before the election started, I was running 7 to 8 miles every morning, and then it was like I was at events, or I was out doing something, or I was shaking hands with somebody. And it's like 11 o'clock at night. I'm getting home, and then like I can't get up at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Sure.
And so like I couldn't. Yeah, I get up at 4. I just look over and, golly, my buddies back at the platoon are gonna laugh, but it was like, snooze. It's like I'm not getting up right now. Like say, and then with those cortisol levels, I mean, they kind of shoot through the roof, and then you just. Yeah, and I got into like a depressive state, just because it's stressful.
Well,
but that's what I wanted to hit on.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your experience in politics, because that's what I'm apprehensive about too. Is public scrutiny and people saying things about you.
You just said something that was kind of interesting. You're like, hey, Allan's not here to, he's here because he cares about the community. Yeah. His family lives here. Yeah. There's like, I think the worst rumor, dude, I had some very interesting stuff that came around. I had people coming back to me saying I was like possessed. Wow. They judging me because of my tattoos. Sure. Obviously, I had a couple of interviews with a couple of my buddies, and I used some profanity here or there, and it's like, guys, come on now. I'm a veteran. I'm coming home. We're talking on a personal level. Yeah. You're just being and my thing is like, are you gonna judge a man? Look, if I walk down to history class and I see, if I see you having a beer, I'm not going to be like, he's an alcoholic, I'm not voting for him. Sure. There are people in this town that are like that.
Yeah. And it's sad to think that you can't have a candidate who's said shit before. Count me out. Right?
Yeah. It's, you have that kind of stuff. And then it's like, and then the change portion, when you come in and you say you want to change stuff, then people are immediately like, oh, no, we need to keep things the way that it's going. Right. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's like, no, there's a lot wrong with keeping the same plan going over and over and over again, like a hamster wheel. Like you got to start getting out there and coming up with new innovative ideas, or else you will fail. And it's like, I get it. And so that's one of the things, and I'll bring it up to you because it sounds like you know a little bit about real estate and development. See, I think just based on what I see, especially at the beach and stuff like that, I think we're in an overdevelopment stage on the beach. And the only reason why is because when I was running for commissioner, I had seen the empty homes to population. Sure. And then it's like, dude, we're building a ton of homes. Right. There's nobody here. And all you keep talking about is Tyndall Air Force Base exploding. Sure. But you're not talking about any of those jobs that are going to come along with Tyndall Air Force Base. So that's my story on the innovative ideas where it's like, oh, and then you say something like that out and about. It's like Ron Keel's against tourism. Ron Keel's, well, first of all, I was a bar back. I slung beer. Second of all, I was a food runner. I did that. I was a bus boy. I've worked almost every position at a restaurant.
Right.
And it's like, no, I'm not against it. But there's a reason why I left here.
Sure.
And it's because that was the only thing that there was here to offer me.
Agreed.
And so it was like, no, I want to better the community to bring in better for my kids.
Right.
Because no, I do not want my kid being 18 years old, graduating from Mosley, coming home and going, Dad, I don't want to go in the Army. I don't want to go in the military. And I don't want to go to college. And Dad, I'm making like $700 a week, you know, as a bar back. And it's like, and people are like, well, that's a good living. Why would you be against that? And it's like, because I got higher hopes for my son.
Sure.
It doesn't, there's
That's
nothing
the goal
wrong.
of every parent.
There's nothing wrong with that job if
Right.
that's what you want.
Right.
But when you have kids, you want to see them doing something a little bit, you know, bigger.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
No, I'm still going to love him no matter what he does.
Sure.
But I mean, it's like, I don't want that to be the only opportunity that he has.
Right.
You know, I don't want him going, oh, I'm going to go get my real estate license and go sell timeshares at Wyndham.
Sure.
Because then it's like, dude, if that's what you want to do, then great. But man, I just want there to be better opera. I want there to be more, not better. Hold on. Not better,
but
more.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, the world, your possibilities in Panama City. My wife and I were in New York City years ago. We had sold one of the companies that took a big road trip, and we're actually living in an apartment with the kids up there. And we were in a park, and we were talking. We were homeschoolers, and I was homeschooled, and our children were homeschooled, and we saw these kids in the park, and we were talking. We were on the bench. I said, "What do these kids in New York get in any big city get different that in Bay County?" And in a larger city, you meet people as a child that are like, I'm a concert cellist, and I'm an artist, and I do all the. Yeah. But here in Panama Bay County, you have limited possibilities, so you don't realize. Like if you would have told me when I was a kid, like you actually could be an astronaut, I'd be like, no way. I don't know any astronauts. That doesn't happen to people here. And so yeah, your world is smaller, and so the sad thing about politics, because you know, you're campaigning for a job, and everyone is hanging on every word, trying to predict the way that you're going to vote later. Yeah. So you say, often, I wish we had more than tourism. He now hates tourism. Yes. And you're like, I never said that.
I never said I hated tourism.
You just, right, totally. And so it's like, can't you just take me for what I'm saying? And that's the hard, that public scrutiny, you know, when people talk about me running for mayor, and I don't know how your feelings are about we're running, but I love that. I'm excited about the challenge and the decisions, and even the campaign. I'm apprehensive about the public scrutiny because those people don't know your heart. They've only heard one or two words from you, and then they're trying to like. And I've had rumors about me, and I'm like, what in the world? I'm just trying to do some good stuff and not go bankrupt at the same time. And then when you realize that especially with Facebook, my parents would read stuff and my children, and that's just it's kind of heartbreaking to think, because I want to make the people around me proud of me. You know, nobody wants to think that their parents. I don't think most people don't want their parents to see things about them that are untrue. You know, and so those all kind of weigh on you, and at least weigh on me, so I can imagine in the campaign seeing those things and being like, what in the world?
Yeah, one of the very so during the race. For a good while, Daniel and I spoke.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about once a month, maybe sometimes twice a month. And every single time we talked, it was always like, hey man, like my kids are watching me. My mom and dad are watching me. I'm not going to talk trash about you or anything like that. You know, this is, you know, I'm going to be as clean as possible. And of course, I'm like, hey, I'm not going to make up any lies about you. Sure. So that was my whole thing. And then I did not have a lot of money. I ran my campaign. I think I ended with like $8,300, $8,400 or something like that. I only spent $1,500 on advertisement. I got 16% of the vote. Both these guys spent crazy amount of money, and you know, for them to get where they got. So there is a little bit of a study that my buddy did, who does campaigns, national campaigns for a couple senators and stuff like that. And he did the math, and he said, you could have won with 30 grand. He said, if you would have had $30,000 and you would have called me and I would have been able to kind of guide you in a couple of areas, he says, you could have won. Just based on the money aspect. But one of the things, so Daniel and Tommy had signs
everywhere. Still do. They're still out there.
Yeah. And the only thing I had was Facebook.
Sure.
And then it was I was like, dude, I came home one night. I was so frustrated because I'm like, and Daniel knows this because I drove down Mosley Drive and it's like, Raphael. I'm like, how many freaking signs you got to have on one road, dude? Holy crap. Yeah. I get it. Name recognition is a thing, but whatever. I'm like, that is ridiculous. And I was really upset, and I had made some type of like small meme. I can't even remember what it was.
Those memes are hilarious. And I would message you like, this is hilarious.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like a video, and I threw it up on Facebook because I was mad, and it was just something I did. And the next morning, I wake up, and it's like 4,200 views, and I was like, "What?" And it's like 27 comments, and I'm like, "Oh." I don't want to look at the comments. And then it was like, no, positive, it's like, it's like 116 likes. And it's like, oh my God, dude. Right. And then I remember my wife was in the kitchen. I was sitting right here and I was like, I know what I'm doing. This is my campaign. And it became a thing. And then a couple of my buddies got on board and they started making them and they were sending me in. And there's like a lot of them that I was like, guys. And I had it on speaker. We have like a 3-way phone call going on. I'm like, guys, I cannot put this up there. And they're like, do it, dude. And then I'm like, no. And they're like, $5 says you won't do it. And I'm like, $5 means something to me. Like, so then I threw it out there. But one of the, that was something, Daniel and Tommy kind of got upset with at the beginning because they were like, hey, dude. And I was like, listen, first of all, it is a movie clip. It is not me speaking. Second of all, if you're getting upset about this, dude, they're just going to keep coming because so it made me happy that they were getting unhappy about that because, well, I don't like driving around the town seeing your sign everywhere.
And signs are just tragic. It's like all this trash. It
is litter, man.
And it's just like, and so I wish we could, maybe I need to research this, a better way to campaign and what is the best way to convey to your constituents your opinions and your past resume of who you are, who you've been, and who you're going to be for them. And I don't know, but signs is just tragic. It's just like,
if you got to have signs.
It's just like, you're just this wait, and it doesn't do anything for the community. I mean, the last mayoral race in Panama City, $200,000 was spent and just junk stuff.
Well, and that's the crazy thing, right? Like, when I went to go vote, that there was a nice couple that was going in to go vote, and I was walking outside. Now there's strict rules about like you as being a candidate, you can't just talk to people while you're in the polls. And so I was walking out, and the gentleman, he stopped me. He's like, "Hey, you got our vote," and and then the guy that was standing there was like, "Hey, you can't," and I was like, hey, and then and then he immediately named. He goes, "Man, that what did he say to me? He said the Thor. He says that Thor thing, man, that thing was great. But man, I saw the WMBB thing." And so he went on through this. Yeah. But man, what I think really comes down to it is if you wanted to actually stop the littering, stop the sign issue, and just this money that's going into that wasteful stuff, it's stuff like this. Yeah. This stuff right here. Social media has its thing. Yeah, you've got a very, very small percentage of people that still go to local television and then listen to the radio. But I honestly believe that's what I said was the memes and the videos and stuff like that. That's the future of politics because we're already seeing it. If you look at the national level, so at the local level, that's what's coming. That's what's going to be when my generation actually starts to step up to the plate. These are the types of things that you're going to see. But man, an end all be all best resume to get out there to people. And then, but I will tell you, this was my personal experience. The thing that I hated the most about running was the people that I grew up with my entire life, people that I knew, people that I worked for, people that I've never had qualms with, people that have always told me, you're like the most respectful young man, you're whatever. Yeah. It's seeing those people not want to get involved.
It's tough. It seems like the more abrasive races get, the less people. Some people like that abrasion, that agitation. They're like, yeah, and then some people are just like, oh, I'm exhausted already as a person.
Yeah,
and I want people, even me, like I'm like, I want people to get along. Like I really want people to be even what you want to me is afterwards. And maybe if I'm elected, this will be interesting to see if I do this, which is the person you beat. Do you still invite them to the table of conversation? Do you still say, hey, I like your ideas. Let's work together on things.
Yeah.
Because that's what you really want. Because those people have all showed that they want to help. Like, it's really sad to be like, I want to help. And then they're like, no. And you're like, I'm here to help.
Well, yeah. But then the people that sit there, though, and they want to complain.
Yeah.
And so I know there's a gentleman that I know of, and he has issues with the county and zoning issues and stuff like that. And then I was like, and I agree with property rights. Mm-hmm. You own the property. Mm-hmm. You want to get it rezoned to something, you should have the ability to freaking do that. Yeah. Now, obviously there are stipulations in there, but most of the issues that this gentleman has had, I agree with him on those things. Yeah. And never even brought any of those issues up, but he's like, sorry, man, I just don't get involved. And it's like, okay, well, don't. When I see you at church on Sunday, don't start complaining about. I never want to hear another thing come out of your mouth when it comes to that.
Well, I think it's sad too. We pay attention. We think we pay attention so much to presidential elections, but then we can't name all our commissioners, and because that's really where if you want to affect change, if we spent less time worrying about the president and more time volunteering in our community, it would be so much better.
Well, I got you one better. Yeah. I guarantee you will find out running for mayor. Mm-hmm. People don't even know what a freaking mayor does.
No, they think the mayor goes like, "You're fired. Tear the house down. Pick up the trash. Arrest him." And they don't. There's different. And so, anyone listening, you can have a weak mayor, which is what Panama City is. It's called a weak mayor or a strong mayor. A weak mayor just has no. So your commission is just a board of directors. Yeah. And all they do is direct staff on policy. And your mayor, they have no special privilege in a weak mayor system. All they do is run the meeting. And so all the mayor and the city commissioner can do is direct the assistant city manager and city manager to do stuff. The mayor can't walk into the police station and be like, sweep that floor, paint that wall, arrest that man. They don't have that authority.
Well, hold on. And I know you're probably not going to want to talk about it. It's a sticky subject. But that's just like Lynn Haven. Like, fire the chief of police. And it's like, you can't. Like there's Florida state statutes that are involved. Mm-hmm. It's the charter gets involved. All this stuff. These guys can't just fire the police chief. Sure. And it's like now who can? Yeah, the city manager can. Mm-hmm. But quit going after these commissioners, right? And even so much as the mayor, and sit there and say you guys aren't doing your job because you haven't fired Ricky Ramey yet. And it's like. Right. Dude, they can't. None of them can walk in there and go, "Hey, guess what? Even if they all voted,
right,
they still can't fire him. Right. There's no vote. Like it's just rhetoric, and I think you'll see that too running. And I'm sure, man, you've already seen all this stuff. But it's like you have people that sit there and they blow up and they just want to have a problem. Let's not talk about the good things that are going on. Let's just go ahead and start just talking about everything that's horrible. Mm-hmm. Now, look, some of the stuff that it was kind of like, and I know I'm name dropping, but it's kind of like Tommy Ham's thing. Tommy Ham is not a bad commissioner. Right. If you look at his track record, it's been really good. Yeah. The only reason why you're looking at a different commissioner now is because he had some personal crap that happened, and the media blew it up. Because the stuff that happened with Tommy, from what I heard, I'm not a contractor, but from what I heard, is pretty damn like normal. Mm-hmm. Like some of the issues that he's dealt with for people that are in that business. That dude's been in business for how long? I mean, this dude's been being a contractor for a long time. Right. So he had some stuff that happened. Mm-hmm. I mean, dude, life happens. Sure. And then it's like, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, he's a horrible commissioner. It's like, No, actually, he's not. My thing about it was they raised my property taxes,
Sure.
and that's when I got upset about stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, dude, it's so crazy. But
Well,
that
and you
was
get blamed for stuff that the other administration, they're like right now, people are mad about this ordinance about RVs and driveways.
Yeah,
and it's like
I heard
that's like a 20-year-old ordinance. So like no one at the commission's married. It's like, oh, we didn't pass that, so like let us know what you think.
Yeah.
And so you get blamed for stuff like potentially even the raising of property taxes. Tommy actually, I have no idea. Could have been against it. I have no idea. Yeah. And you have some department head that has to have more budget, and so he's forced to get and so you just it's one of these positions. It'd be like walking into McDonald's, having a bad hamburger, and blaming the board of directors. And they're like, I didn't know the trash cans were full at the McDonald's on Harrison Avenue. I'm the board of directors. You're even separated from some of the problems. So it's really a tough position to be in. Like, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. But no, that's. But like I said, most of the people that I knocked on their doors, like they would sit there and they'd start to talk to me about being a county commissioner, and people brought up the walkway on Beach Drive.
Sure.
They brought up downtown cobblestone roads. Sure. They brought up, like, first of all, you live in Lynn Haven.
Right. Nothing to do.
You're my neighbor. I mean, this happened. No. This happened out here in my neighborhood. And one of my neighbors is going to watch this and they're going to be like, asshole. And like, it's going to be like, you did say, this was the conversation. You brought up all that stuff. And it's like, none of those are county issues.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, what does the county do?
Right.
And it's like,
water, sewer.
Yeah, your
roads,
your
infrastructure type stuff.
Yeah. Hey, your property taxes just went up, and it's like that went up by 25%. I don't know if you were paying attention to that. And then, but yeah, I mean, and I think you. That's the main thing. It's educating the community on what that position does.
Yeah.
And what the current person is doing.
Sure.
And what makes you different from them. Not necessarily saying I'm better, but what makes you different, And
I think, trust is established in information.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't know what the person is doing or thinking, and we have this incredible ability now to communicate like we never had before. You go back 60 years ago, you had to write letters to the editor and things like that. But now we have all these kind of things. I would love to see governmental podcasts, long form, talking about issues, even potentially with citizens who oppose it.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't it be interesting to sit down with someone who is on Beach Drive, who opposes it, and have an elected official talk to them about it and record it, so then you can share it and you can hear their explanations. Like, potentially you could explain things to citizens like this where it's a one-on-one explanation that other people get to hear, and so that have the same common thread of opposition. Yeah. So it's really interesting. I spent 2 days with the mayor of Greenville, South Carolina, a couple months ago. 2 full days. He is famous for revitalizing Greenville, South Carolina. If you haven't been to Greenville, South Carolina, it was a dying textile mill in the 90s. And he was a lawyer, immigration lawyer, who ran for mayor, and now it's gorgeous. They just built they're twice the size of Panama City. They just built a $100 million park. I mean, it's incredible. And he said you either over communicate or you under communicate. There's never the perfect right amount of communication. He said if you over communicate, you think you're spending too much money, but if you under communicate, you pay for it in inefficiencies within your departments of this person showed up mad to the meetings and we're misinformed, and you step 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Yeah. And you have to over communicate in government to build trust with your citizens. And so that's the communication.
I think he's 100% correct.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I hated running against Daniel. Because whenever we had a forum or whenever we had some type of debate, it was like he'd go into these long drawn out things. And I'm like, dude, man, just answer the freaking question. And then afterwards, my dad had told me, it was after one of the forums that we had. I was like, dude, just answer the freaking question. And my dad goes, you are not in the military anymore. People are not soldiers. Right. It is not that simple. There are people out there that have to, and my dad's exact words, have to be dumbed down to be able to understand what that is. Sure. Your explanations, you're just answering, and you're thinking that that's sufficient, but it's really not, because when you're just answering that, I'm like, Dad, it's very, very simple, yes or no. And he goes, you have to explain what they asked in the question. You have to explain it and answer the question back to them while explaining what everything in that question meant.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, Dad, I don't think this is for me. Because I can't do that. Like if you're here, if you're at a forum and you want to, the question is about septic to sewer or something like that. That's a thing that's going on in the county. And it never came up. This is the other thing. You just said something a second ago about forums. Man, dude, I would have loved to have done a town hall where people got to ask questions because all of the questions that are being asked from the media outlets and even these groups, when it came to like the Republican group of Bay County and all of that, it's like, you're not asking questions that people actually are concerned with. First of all, property tax barely ever came up. That whole thing about the donors list, I mean, not like my concern wasn't so much the donors list as it was the potential to see corruption that we've seen.
Talk about the debate on, was it WMBB?
Yeah.
You were like, tell me you're not going to vote. You're going to
and
the check or something.
Well, yeah. And then he got out of it. And I've talked to him about it since. And he, we actually, him and I were on the phone for about 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Daniel's on this time.
Yeah. After everything. And, because he had hit me on the beer slinging thing.
Sure.
He's like, "Oh, you called them beer slingers," and I, and when I talked to him on the phone about that, I was like, "Man, what the heck? I never said." He goes, "That's the only thing I had."
Daniel has the gift of gab. He's been on the radio.
Yeah,
he's a super sweet guy, and he also has that family recognition name. The Rathfield name's been in this town for a billion years. And
the whole family. Yeah, they're all really big into the fishing community.
Oh, huge.
But one of the things. When Daniel talked to me about, it was all about like, I have to utilize what I have. That was the only mess up that you really made. And then but I
love that you guys talked afterwards. I think that's super cool.
I mean, we talked, we tried to talk during, there was some drama that we actually found out that he had nothing really to do with. Man, some people just want to, and really, believe it or not, that drama I think hurt me more than anything. Just because I had kind of a little bit of remorse that was set up because I was like, I'd been getting these text messages and like random phone calls. My wife got a random phone call, but they do this like it's through Google Voice, and then they'll delete the number. And then you can't ever call it back. You contact local law enforcement, and they sit there and they kind of like blow it off. Like it's like, nah, you're probably not going to ever catch the person or whatever, because we're not going to spend the money to go through all this.
Sure.
So, I thought it was Daniel because Daniel had asked me several times, hey man, if you thought about backing out, you don't have a chance at winning. You don't have the money. You don't have the recognition. I've got all that. I think you got a shot going after local government, like when he was talking about Lynn Haven or something like that. Yeah. But I just don't think this is a thing for you. So because of that, I kind of like threw it on him. I was like, he's the one that's doing it. And then one of my buddies had found out that it wasn't. And then it was one of those like, dang, dude, like I kind of screwed up because I was treating Daniel like crap. And I had to eat some crow on that. But
that's big of you though.
Yeah, and then actually it was right before the WMBB debate. Oh, okay. Him and I kind of, we spoke in that room right out there. I mean, Tom Lewis was sitting there with like the camera guy. They were getting everything set up. And I told Daniel, I was like, I found out that wasn't you. And I apologize. And he's like, man, I'm not going to do that to you, Yeah.
He's a sweetheart of a guy.
Yeah. He's not a bad guy. Yeah. I am curious to see his voting record, but man, there's going to be more than just these local projects that we've got to worry about at the county level. There's a lot more. A lot of it has to do with what I was talking about, though. I mean, it's really going to come down to those jobs. I'd really like to see those kind of come back. But what is your main priority going to be, though?
Into that.
I switched. You did. I switched over.
We were having a conversation, and all of a sudden, it got political. All of a sudden, yeah.
What is your main? If you become mayor?
Yeah.
And even when you're running,
sure.
the platform what's going to be your main thing that you want to really like hone in on?
Do you want the political answer or the Allan answer talking to Ron?
Well, I tried to get you to drink some of your own beer.
No, I can't drink beer on a Wednesday night. I would be bad.
No, I can't either.
I got to get up and go to work tomorrow. So I think most of the time when a predominant business owner runs for government, they say, I'm going to put a business lens on the local government. And I think that is, in theory, what I want to do. What I mean, and we've talked about it, cities are broken, and they look at a lens through incorrect ways, like how they spend money. They do budget. They don't do budgetary meetings where they when we go through budgets for history class or El Weirdo, we're looking to spend as little as we can, not necessarily on wages. We pay very well. In fact, we've only lost a handful of employees ever, like 5 or 6 at history class.
Every time I've gone in there, it's the same person that serves me.
Yeah, we take a lot of pride in retention of employees and team members. So I'm focused on looking at the city not as like I want to make the city a business. Not true. There's ways to look at budgetary stuff. Like I would love to find when you look at even code enforcement, who is the best code enforcement department in the state? Mm-hmm. And by best, what does best even mean? Well, best to me is code enforcement. Their job is to make sure that you are keeping your house up to code and that what you do doesn't affect other people's property values. And I'm a big property rights guy too, but I don't think you call them code enforcement officers. That's kind of abrasive and scary. Even as me, I've dealt with code enforcement. So you look at code enforcement, you say, let's find the best code enforcement department in the state, which would be the highest amount of engagement. Who contacts their citizens the most, but it never goes to the magistrate, never goes to the fine. So they're able to work with people. And so let's say you have an elderly person who can't keep their yard up. In some places, they would get fined and lose their house eventually. Yeah. That's a failure of a system. You should have a process where if a person can't afford to keep, you get the neighbors to help, or maybe there's a charity or that kind of thing. So looking at every department and going like, how do we rethink this? Which the problem was, it's when you start saying, which is similar to what you said, new ideas, innovation, that scares people that work at City Hall because they start going, I might lose my job. They might think I'm doing a bad job. But it's needed. It's necessary. Even our own business, we are constantly going, we had a meeting today. What should we be doing more often of? What should we be doing less of? What are something that you dread doing that we should stop doing as a test? Mm-hmm. Those are all things that business talk about. You even look at ordinances. As a society, we pack on more and more ordinances and laws. Mm-hmm. How many do we ever take off? So in theory, as a governing body, we're adding ordinances and rules and things. We are becoming less and less free as people, unless we put one on, take one off. Really should be put one on, take 2 off. Yeah. Right. In software, which is what I do, they actually call that technical debt, which is as your organization grows, if you're not, it's kind of like your closet. A spring clean, every few months you clean your closet out because you start getting, your wife buys you a shirt, she buys you a ring, and all of a sudden you're like, my freaking closet's full. Yeah. And you got to clean some stuff up. And so in software, as you have your closets full, the organization becomes so hard to change. There's a cost, there's a higher cost of innovation because you have to now change all these rules. Now you have so many rules in code enforcement that to train a new employee takes so much longer, right? So the government should be shrunk down. We should be doing, you watch Bar Rescue, restaurant. Yeah. They don't come into a failing restaurant and go, you should add menu items. They say you should be doing less things and do those things really well. So there's a lot of things that we, Panama City and other cities do that are simply unnecessary that the county would be willing to do or other entities, or simply you don't need to do. Yeah. And that's what I would like to look at. But it's dumbed down to business lens on government. Wow. And so I really, it's hard to explain your heart and your intentions in 1 minute, which is what a campaign is. Yeah. It's like, explain to the people who are going to vote for you 3 years of possible, 2 years of possible votes in 1 minute. Yeah.
Well, that's the reason why I refuse to do an elevator pitch. Yeah. Most of the people that you talk to, they're going to say, he said something different every time I saw him. He never said the same thing. Right. And it's because first of all, if you say the same thing over and over and over again, robot. You who are you?
Right, sure.
You know, there's more than, you know, that's the reason why, like, I think they counted how many times I said like about my kids, like how many times I said I had a wife and kids. It was like twice. And like I only brought up being a veteran, every so often,
Sure.
and I definitely didn't want to ride that as hard as a lot of people do, because it's like once you start riding that veteran kick, it just starts to go out the window. But it's like I refuse to have a specific script, like because it just makes you seem disingenuous. Some people go for it. Some people like it. Some people like that, and then it's like I'm not a touchy feely guy. I'm not a very. It's like, am I happy go lucky? If I know you, I don't know you. You know, the world that we live in today is very, very dangerous. I've been to different places of the world that aren't so nice. And so, you know, and I think society is changing. And it's back when I was growing up. You brought up Boyette and Casey earlier. And I remember going to Boyette and Casey with my dad and, you know, into that hardware store, and then a gentleman come up and be like, hey, how are you doing today, buddy? You know, and start talking to me, and I'm talking back and forth, and shake my hand or whatever. And nowadays we live in a society where it's like, I don't want you talking to anybody. Yeah, like, because it's like, but media has a lot to do with that. But I mean, it's like the world's changing so much nowadays where I think people just want good, honest people. They don't want the same politician that we've seen. Trump proved it. You know, and it's very, very, it's crazy to me to see how some of these politicians get up there, say the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and then they win. And I'm like, oh, and then those same people sit there and talk about how Trump's great. And it's like, wow, dude, we live in a weird area. You know, I mean, the Bible Belt is kind of weird. Like when you really dig deep down into it on what people want out of a politician at local government, versus state, versus federal, you know, I mean, it's, but I mean, okay. So, and then obviously cutting the red tape is a huge deal.
And that's the same thing too. So you look at what does it take to get investments in the town, and you start eliminating or streamlining processes. That's what you do. When I launch a software company, we build customer support departments or sales departments. It's the same. You know, your development services is a sales department. They enter in with a development order, they exit with a CO, which is an inspection you're building. That's your timeline of a project. So you can track all those steps of rough inspection, development order, pre-app meeting. So you can impact fees. You can track that. And so most of these departments should be looked at like a sales funnel to speed. And you're always even in sales, like, you know, if you were to go to a t-shirt website and put in like, I want to buy 40 t-shirts, they're tracking you. Initial contact, they reach out to you. Do they get you a quote? Do you buy? They're always trying to speed those little KPIs, those little things up. And so that's the way government should be run, in my opinion, is speeding it up. No kidding. Those kind of
speeding
things.
Stuff up, not slowing it down. Because the more regulation that you keep putting.
The part of the problem with local government that I've seen, and this is not specific to Panama City, is your city manager and assistant city manager typically around about 5 years before a leadership change happens at the elected level, and the elected level people run off the city manager because there's been a change. And so what happens is your staff lasts, it depends, some department heads come and go, but your staff keep going with, no one ever digs into the foundation of the organization of like, well, you know, like Panama City, there was a budgetary meeting, and the Parks and Rec director, Keith Medford, actually compared Panama City to other cities of our size. And he said, our city has 55 parks. You don't realize we have that many parks. It's 5,000 acres to mow. Most cities our size have 13 parks and 500 acres. So when we ask for 2.3 million, just like other cities of our size, we have 10 times the amount of mowing and blowing and signs that other cities have. And most of these parks aren't even actual parks. They're like a piece of land that someone gave the city who passed away and had no heirs or something like that. Yeah. We threw a bench on it and a sign. It's a park. We should sell it and put it back on the tax roll. We should go back to 13 parks and benchmark. What do restaurants do? Restaurants say, okay, 5 to 10% of your revenue should be attributed to rent. 30% should be attributed to labor. Typically, if you order a piece of food off, I know at our menu, you can divide it by a third and figure out what the food actually costs. Yeah. Right. And so we're constantly benchmarking ourselves against other restaurants and breweries, right? Yeah. Cities don't benchmark. Again, like what does Pensacola do? What does Winter Park, Florida do? and the fire safety and police and all those kind of things. What do they spend in comparison to us? There's no apples to apples, just like there's no real apples to apples in history class. But I went to 30 different breweries before I opened history class and saw their numbers and met with the owners and asked them their problems. And if I hadn't have done that research and opened history class and it failed, you would say, shame on you for not doing enough research. But in government, we say, that's fine. You don't have to benchmark yourself. Like every department head should have a mentor in a city that they admire who's guiding them. I mean, if you were training for Mr. Olympia or even an ultra marathon, you would have someone who's helping you with training, a coach or a mentor or someone on Instagram that's teaching you how to do training. You wouldn't just go, I made up my training myself, because none of us were descended from the heavens, anointed with knowledge on how to do anything besides take a dump. Yeah. That's all we really know how to do as babies. Yeah. So you have to, in anything you do, learn new things, ask people who are better than you how they did things.
And then there has to be a plan of action. There has to be milestones you're supposed to meet along the way. And if that doesn't happen, there needs to be accountability. Yeah, there's not enough accountability in government right now. You can pretty much get away with, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take your tax dollars. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want with it, and then but I'm not going to answer to you. And because the only thing, and I've seen this a lot, even with friends of mine who are in politics, the entire time they're in, they're worried about what track record they're going to have when they run again. And it's like, dude, when you stop worrying, and this comes from somebody that I've never served in that aspect, so maybe I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But the way that I look at it is when you stop worrying about that track record of getting reelected, you're going to start to see change. Right. Because if the only thing you're trying to do is make people happy, if the only thing you're trying to do, you're never going to get anything done. Yeah. Because people aren't going to like you.
Most people I've never faced, they've never realized that. So just like you have your opinion on history class beer, there's some people that love it. There's some people that hate it. And you're never going to make everyone happy on anything. Yeah. And there's people that think we should have pizza in history class and hamburgers. And I'm like, we don't, so one of the best terms I've heard for elected officials is vote like you're not running again. Right. Right. Because what happens is even now,
run like you're not going to run again.
Right. And so vote with your heart and research. And then what happens is what you see that track record about 6 months before the election, everyone starts getting very conservative and very friendly towards everybody. Man. And what that does is creates a slower organization. And then the city manager leaves at some point, and 6 months after, or 3 months, they're looking for a new city manager, and then they hire them. And then 6 months after that, they're getting used to the position. So now there's 10 months of them waiting around, 10 months of nothing really happening. And that's why government's inefficient. But in all fairness, though, if we had, let's say we opened a brew pub together and we were the board of directors and we said every 2 years there'll be a new board of directors, that organization would be all messed up. It would be like the next guy would say, well, I'm not calling it history class. I'm calling it history lessons. And now we're changing the branding. And the next person says, we're doing pizza. And we're like, there was a good reason we weren't doing pizza. And then, and so it's this ever evolving organization that with new leadership that's constantly bringing their vision in. And that's part of the chaos of it. And so there is there's a lot of, most cities don't have 2-year mayors. That's one issue we have, which is constantly having to campaign, constantly having to fundraise, and that paralysis of, track record that paralyzes people into doing the right thing or being aggressive towards change and improvement. So it'll be interesting. And, we both are on this side of the oath. Yeah. Right? And that side of the oath is a whole new perspective, I'm sure, that Daniel's starting to experience and will fully experience very soon. So it's tough. It's tough to judge those people without us. It's like me judging someone who served in the Army when I never served in the Army, right? So it's that we have this ignorance of that position. Yeah. And so I'm excited we should do this interview 1 year from now. And right, and see if I do get elected, or I'd be like, here's how bad it is, Ron.
No, I have to do one when you're actually running, and one after it's over, whether you win or not. But the elected stuff, especially our local politicians, and I want to say too, it's not easy, even at these local levels. Sure. Like I said, one of my best friends is as a commissioner over in Lynn Haven, and having to see, for someone that sits at his seat that he sits at, first of all, there's not a lot of money in it.
No,
In
it's
fact,
like
there's
26 grand a year in Panama City. At least
it's-
county's like 75 or something.
It's like 84.
Oh, yeah, that's huge compared to Panama City's like 27.
That's the reason why I was like, dude, 84 grand a year. And these guys are talking. Well, this is okay. I'm happy you said that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hit on it too long. The reason why I harped.
You mentioned full time.
Well, I have a hard time with it because there's a guy I look up to him. I respect him very, very well, and I'm about to quote him. But he was like, "Hey, quit harping on the salary because nobody cares." And I said, "You know why I care? A Bay County Sheriff's deputy." When I was at one of these forums, Tommy Ford got up there and he said that he was very, very proud of being able to like hook up his new deputies at $50,000 a year.
Right.
$50,000 a year, for a new green, right out of the academy deputy, and he goes out there, you never know what he's going to see. I mean, he might go have to pull somebody out of a car that's been wrecked, or
oh yeah, they
not so likely, but maybe get shot at. But these are chances that they're taking.
Yeah,
and the long hours, like I think they work like 12-hour shifts, and then some of them work doubles and stuff like that. They miss holidays with their family.
Yeah.
And then the divorce rate is actually high for first responders.
Yeah.
And so you're making $50,000 a year.
I agree.
And this is not a stab at a business owner, but you're a business owner. You don't see the world through the lens of the blue collar worker every day.
Sure.
Or maybe there was a point in time in your life that you did. But you're a local business owner. Yeah, you want to see great for the community, but you only show up to vote.
Right.
Because they're like if I think, and this is what I was one of the things that I wanted to do was actually mark down your freaking time.
Sure.
And then it'd be public.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
So whenever you came in and you clocked in at the county office, when you came into your office, or even clocked those hours when you went out and you looked at stuff into the community, you clock your hours.
I love that.
Because if you're not $84,000 a year, making $34,000 more than the guy that's not going to be able to see his son's birthday this Saturday because he's got to go out and rustle down a meth head. You better have a good damn reason why you're not, actually out in the community working, making that kind of money. And when it came down to Tommy and Daniel, I mean, Daniel, real estate guy, he's still going to sell real estate. And then you got Tommy, and he's a builder. It's like, there's no way you guys are going to have enough time. But hey, you know what? And one of the things that I talked to Daniel about, I was pulling into Howell Tackle. It was a couple days after the election. And Daniel got out of his truck, and he had saw me in there, and I was buying a pair of sunglasses, and he says, man, I think this is going to take more time. Sure. My phone won't stop blowing up. I left it in the truck because I can't, I can't get around. And he's not even not even in there yet.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like, I mean, I think he's going to see that it's actually going to take a lot more time than what he thought it was going to. Drinking out of a fire hose. Yeah. But no, I believe that if our county, if our local officials, federal officials, and even city and municipality, clock your hours. Prove to me that you're worth the money that we're given to you.
Sure.
When I was in the military, there's not a clock in, clock out. There's a reason why they don't have that in the infantry. It's because you're always at work.
Sure, that's true. That's true.
So
that's true.
It's but yeah, no, I thought that would be interesting. So okay, so mayor, red tape.
Organization, fixing organization, which is super vague.
It sounds like you're going to be a budget guy.
I'm going to lower the time. I think we have some advantage. So Panama City, cities have a bunch of different funding mechanisms. So you have ad valorem taxes, so property taxes, and you make a little bit of money as a city from telephone poles, like renting the lines through cable companies. Those are called franchise fees, and electrical companies. You make a little bit of money off gas lines, all these little easements. And you make water makes a little bit of money, trash makes a little bit of money, and then Panama City, those are your typical. So every city in Florida has those. Well, yeah, they all do. Panama City Beach doesn't have a millage, but all the other cities do. But Panama City has two things that other cities don't. Fire assessment. There's like 20% of the cities in Florida have a fire assessment. That's $6.5 million. And then we have the merchant fee, which is 1% of all sales, with the exception of like services. So if you're billing hourly, you don't pay that. But if you sell a product, you pay 1%, which is $13.5 million this year. So Panama City has extra $20 million between the fire assessment and the merchant fee that other cities don't have. Yeah. And now Panama City likes to, even before the hurricane, we're poor, we don't have any money. Yeah. Okay, you've got two revenue streams that other cities don't have. That'd be like me coming to you, Ron, and saying, Ron, I got 3 jobs, 3 full-time jobs. I need to work at a 4th job I'm poor. You'd be like, you might want to just try spending less money. Right? Because you just simply can't work more jobs.
Oh, you mean budget your checkbook.
Yeah, like somehow the organization has ballooned to a size that is way bigger than the pants, the funding mechanisms. Yeah. And it's not from an evil standpoint, I don't believe. It's just from inertia of previous decisions, just like ordinances stay on the books, just because no one's complained about them and no one's looked to remove them. So let's have an eye of, can we spend less money? Can we remove ordinances? How does all these other cities operate on just the millage? Yeah. And why can't we? Why can't we? Other cities have cool parks and firemen and policemen, and they have all the things that we have. Mm-hmm. Why can't we do it?
So speaking of parks, because I mean, this is going to come up anyway as you run, because it's coming up this spring.
April is the election's April 22nd. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I know it's going to come up because I don't think they're going to start breaking ground on this yet, but the walk.
Beach Drive?
Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about it. What do you want to know?
Well, first of all, educate me, because I mean, there's all kinds of people out there that talk about it, and they do their shows on it. There's been articles that have been written about it. All I know is this is how stupid I am to Beach Drive. Yeah. I walked Beach Drive when I was campaigning, and I knocked on the door and I talked to a lot of people about it. I still don't really get it. It seems like it seems like a cool idea. I know a lot of people have made a big deal about the vegetation, and then just the Long Beach Drive. It's like, save Beach Drive, save Beach Drive, save Beach Drive, and then has something to do with property rights. And so they say, So, explain it to me.
Yeah, and first, I'm not a lawyer. Number one, right? So if this path actually started in 2012. Before I came downtown and before I even owned property in Panama City, we owned our house. And it was explained to me by John Cady, who actually passed away last year. John Cady was a commissioner in Ward 2, which is kind of which is the Cove in Millville. John Cady is a libertarian, and I'm really more libertarian than I am Republican. And he also was an engineer. He started Trigo. So Gilbert, the current owner of Trigo, bought it from John Cady. John Cady was an engineer, private investigator, surveyor, culinary professor at Gulf Coast State College, and one of the smartest people you'll ever meet. And if you do some Googling, you'll see there were previous conversations about that same path idea. And Greg Bernicki, previous mayor, super nice man, known him very well, known him my whole life.
I worked for him.
Yeah. He said, don't make us, and this is what cities do, don't make us go hire a consultant to tell everybody this is a good idea, because this is a good idea. And Beach Drive people got really mad and they all backed off from it. But meanwhile, at the state level, people still went after the money to get the funding mechanism, because the big pushback was it's going to cost $2.1 million. We don't want to pay for it. So at the state level, they started working to try to get us the money. Hurricane Michael came, the money came in. We had consultants. The consultants obviously, and let me back up. I talked to a guy named John Simmerman. Active Towns, Simmerson.
You just brought him up the other day on Facebook about the walk.
Totally. He said that the best use of money a city can do is spend money on trails and sidewalks and walk, all those things that get people active. And he said there's not a single case of a city anywhere removing a path like that. I would challenge someone to find one and bring that case study to the city. And why? If you Google road diet, bike trail, multi-use trail, crime, whatever it is. The every city reacts the same way we have, which is
Jesus.
It's going to be crime, it's going to be terrible, and we already have home. The reality is it pushes out bad behavior, activity.
Well, that's something that I wanted to, and I'm happy, and I'm not trying to interrupt, but we used to have homeless people that were camping behind Walmart in Lynn Haven, like a lot back there. Since that trail went up, they're gone. And listen, I don't understand where that mentality comes from. And I kind of, when my buddy Sam Peebles was running the year before last, when we were knocking on people's doors, it was like the hottest topic because that was what Rails Trails was just getting started. They were breaking ground and people were all against it. They're like, it's not going to be utilized. It's not going to be. And I run it consistently almost every day. And dude, it has, well, first of all, it creates a safe space. When you talk about Beach Drive, now I used to live off of 19th Street, right off of Balboa, and I would run down Balboa and hit Beach Drive, and I'd run on it. I have caught a lip in the sidewalk too many times to count.
It's slippery too.
Almost busted my face. A, B, all of those side streets, people drive like maniacs, and then there's these
you have to cross through them.
Jeez, man, and so to have a walkway like this and to be against it, but I guess the only reason why people are against it is because of the property aspect,
right? And so I'll send you the surveys. So again, John Cady, who was a big spearheader of this, libertarian surveyor, engineer, and it's a straw man. There is, if you look on the west part of Beach Drive, you'll see yellow markers on the south side of the road, and that was put in by the state because this is a state road. It still is currently, and so the right of way is actually like 65 feet. That road is like 30. The right of way, and it goes. If you, I will send you the surveys.
Oh, really?
It goes almost up to people's front doors.
Oh.
And the reality of those, if you look in a couple, you ever seen the Episcopal Church and how it has parking in front of it? And this is the Pandora.
In theory, there shouldn't be a parking lot there.
Right, if there's a right of way, right?
Yeah.
So why did how'd that get created, right? So that's a straw man argument. And these are nice citizens. This is a common reaction. These are not evil people. These are good. I have an uncle that lives in that road that opposes it. Harold Basil, super nice man.
Well, it's like every single freaking yard. It's like,
because what they're worried about, and this is fair, if they would have come to the table, because the city in theory could say, you got a parking lot in your front yard now. You got a public restroom in your front yard. And they don't want that. I wouldn't wish that upon my parents. I would never say we should do something to ruin someone's view or put parking lots and parking in front of their homes. Never. But it is a fact that shrinking a road down a little bit, adding a sidewalk on the south side that doesn't intersect all those roads will 100% be safer. Traffic and transportation is one of the highest funded departments at the federal level. It is studied like nothing else. We have all the data. We don't have to make up stuff. It's factual. So you slow traffic down a little bit, put a south side sidewalk. The city was willing to do underground utilities, give the property owners the north side sidewalk and take it out or whatever they wanted. But those owners said, we don't want anything. And we're gonna, and so they could have come to the table and said, please, they could have, and 30% of those lots aren't even on the south side on the water aren't even owned by those owners. So they are getting free waterfront property that they don't want to share. So, and every dead end road across the dead end street is public access. And so what they don't want, and now the fair argument is more people, more trash. 100%. You bring more, you know where there's no trash? When there's no people. So people will bring trash, but people will push out homelessness, drug activity that's already happening there. And so the compromise the city has come to is taking the road, staying within the envelope of that road, shrinking the lanes down and having enough room for a bike path on the south side. So they're not disturbing where the curbs are at now. So what's the lawsuit? We're just taking the road and shrinking the road and putting a sidewalk on it with a little divider. So there's I have not seen the argument of we're taking property. In fact, there should be, and I would proponent, my parents live on a dead end road on Palmetto Avenue, which is right near the port. And you know what they did? They put a bench at the end of their road so the neighborhood could sit on and go to the bay and enjoy the bay. My parents cut their dead-end access for the neighborhood so they can drive their cars down and enjoy the water as a community, embracing other people. And so those owners are nervous about people coming into their neighborhood and onto bayfront property that most of them don't even own and disturbing what they. But the logical thing is, it's very common as you get older to feel like I would rather have what I know about now than problems I don't know about.
Yeah.
And in fact, in city turnover, they call that NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Yeah.
And so you could do anything in some neighborhoods and they would be like, you could give away gold bars and be like, I'm giving away gold bars. They would say, you hate silver. Right. And so, but their reaction is not evil. But I always say, like, we didn't invent bike paths in this town. Right? We didn't invent these shrinking the road down. We didn't invent that. And so we can study other towns. If we're trying, a decision is an attempt at predicting the future.
Well, that bike path is supposed to go over to St. Andrews and it's supposed to shoot up to Sweet Bay.
Yeah, and so phase one is on the beach, and part of the argument is like, well, why do you want to start it here? Start it at the ends. And it's
I think it's freaking great. Well, okay, from the aspect of being a runner, cyclist, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Obviously, the property rights issue, it sounds like it's not even
I'll send you the surveys, and you'll look at the surveys and be like, "Oh my gosh, these people's front yards are not their front." Now, I would never say if you have, because my parents on their dead end street, their flower bed goes past the power pole.
Wow.
Right. I would never wish something upon someone else that I wouldn't wish upon my parents.
Yeah.
Like that's the lens that I would say. Those people should not be shamed either.
Yeah.
That fear and that unknown is common and warranted.
Well, I think downtown is exploding, but it's a good explosion. Right. It's not, it's not like you got a bunch of nightclubs with a bunch of, a bunch of crime. I mean, we've got a beautiful hotel that's opened up down there now. You've got restaurants like yours.
Yeah.
These areas are nice. I know a lot of people are against St. Joe and what all they're about. Yeah. I guess there's a little bit of question about what's going to go where the Buccaneer was.
Yes, private property. But
so, I mean, once that, hopefully that gets developed.
Sure.
You get something that's nice there. You got a nice walkway. We, down in Tampa, there's a huge walk. You know what I'm talking about, right there along the bay. Man, dude, I used to run that all the time. Thought it was great.
Right.
I mean, a lot of cities have these things, and I don't see the problem with it on that. As long as nobody's property is being screwed with, then who the hell cares? It should be something that's there. And when I say who cares, I mean who cares in the aspect of, so there's going to be people that's on it. We've got a police force, and good God, Panama City Police Department, I believe, dude, you cannot spit and not hit a cop. They're everywhere down there. So if you have a freaking problem, dude, I can guarantee you there's like 4 or 5 patrol cars that are in that area that are ready to go. They're bored anyway most of the time.
Sure.
They love your call.
Yeah.
The
other argument is like ecological. Right. Oh, you're disturbing natural vegetation.
Yeah, the vegetation.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, maybe that is a concern. And so I actually spoke to the San Andrew Bay and St. Joseph Bay Estuary program, and they do all kinds of cool programs, education, but also restoration.
Yeah.
And I said, people are worried about the seagrasses and the sea oats, and they said, oh, there's hardly any on Beach Drive. And I said, okay, what would it cost to like make it like beautiful with sea oats and like it used to be maybe 100 years ago? And she said, oh, well, we already did a study on that. And I said, well, what would it cost? And she's like, $3,000 to restore all the sea oats and seagrass. I said, I said three.
1,000?
3,000.
3,000. Not another zero there.
And I said, that's what I said. I said, wait, what? She said, okay. If we can't get enough volunteers, it might be 4 to 5.
I'd donate that. I would start a freaking fundraiser and have one of the schools. Have one of the local schools do that. That's like
totally right. It's a laughable little amount. I mean, Panama City spends that much money on paper. At the city hall in a month, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just so those sort of like pushback on like, and even at one point the owner said sea turtles. And so I contacted a couple people, a couple marine biologists.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to go in.
There's the state tracks sea turtles and shoreline birds a lot.
Yeah,
and they said, no. There's no shorebirds on that property. We'd love for shorebirds to be there, and you're not actually touching the shore, but there's no shorebirds there nesting. There's no sea turtles there. We would love to see sea turtles there, but there's none currently.
Did you know that that's the reason why there's no lights on 30A?
Yeah, I have, because they mess up.
Yeah, you knew that?
Yeah.
Dude, I didn't know that for like the longest time, and somebody had told me because I was like, why don't they have any light? And they said because it had to do with sea turtles.
Yeah.
So
because they don't know they follow the moon, so they get disoriented.
Yeah, so sea turtles aren't a thing anyway because you got to light every freaking 50 feet on.
And if there was a plan to bring back the turtles, I would say let's do that because that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I've seen sea turtle hatchings at the beach. It's an awesome experience.
Yeah.
And so, that fear, they're bringing up sort of false arguments, in my opinion,
They even said that they were going to relocate a lot of those trees that were over a certain amount of old. I mean, it's like you are literally doing everything under the sun to make somebody happy, including spending shitloads of the taxpayers' dollars to do it. Now, I get it that it was, that's the reason why people are like, well, it's a grant. I'm like, it's still tax dollars, dude. Mm-hmm. It's still tax dollars. Mm-hmm. And I hate it when people say, oh, it's free money. It's not free money. It's not free money.
It's somebody's money.
It's still tax. It's still taxes. So
I agree. Yeah, it's tough. I think it goes back to the city really, if you look at why that fear got created, and I hope if anyone is listening from Beach Drive that they hear this part, the city did not communicate things well to them. And they made them feel like they weren't being listened to or their concerns weren't valid. So the worst thing you can do in a conversation like that is say, you're wrong and dumb for believing that.
Yeah.
Because that is a normal reaction, especially as you get older, of like, well, I like my yard now and there's not many people out there and you might disturb. I'm like 75 years old and I'm, who knows how long I'm going to be. So that reaction is normal. And so those fears are validated. There's going to be trash. Yes. If you see trash, report it. We'll add more trash cans. Yeah. Trash should not be a reason to stop doing something. Yeah. It should be like, we can pick up trash. It's not that hard. Yeah. Like we need to add more trash cans. We can add more trash cans. Yeah. It'd be like shutting a park down because the city doesn't pick up the trash. Like you wouldn't do that. You would say, add a few more trash cans, pick up the freaking trash. So those are false arguments, but it's been sort of a brutal battle over the course of 12 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see it. I'm actually meeting with a lady who lives on that road in a week because she said, hey, we don't our views don't align on Beach Drive, but we have views that do align. And so, as a political candidate, potential,
that's what you want.
You want someone who's like, me and my wife don't agree on everything. My dad and I certainly don't agree on everything. Yeah. And so you have to realize that we all come to a place of loving this place. All our arguments are valid. Let's lead not by I feel like, but based on research. Research is a better predictor of the future.
Yeah. So that was controversy number 1.
Yeah.
Controversy number 2.
Give it to me. Ooh.
The Marina.
Oh, look at see the balloons.
Oh, dude, it gave me balloons.
I don't know how you did that, but there's balloons.
I think it does weird stuff every once in a while. That's an Apple product.
The Marina. Yeah. So let's talk about the Marina. So the Marina is actually, if you look at it from the overview, it's actually a bulkhead that goes out from the shore and then goes into a T, right? Mm-hmm. And that was created in the 1960s. And that's when the merchant fee actually got created by both Panama City and Panama City Beach. They created a merchant fee. In the middle of that strip, and people that are older than me remembers, there were commercial buildings that were for rent in that space. The Four Winds restaurant, Barbie Coswell had a barber shop there. There was a bunch of stuff there. And so
Four Winds. Yeah.
And so there's always been commerce on the Marina. And so what the city has done a better job of here recently is and it's too big of a thing to explain, but the wet slips, when we're talking about the Marina, let's talk about the wet slips versus the dirt. There's two different things. The wet slips were 250. It's either 220 or 250 slips. I need to get that number down on pat. But here's the biggest thing: they were funded by Panama City tax dollars, not Lynn Haven tax dollars, not Bay County tax dollars. Panama City taxpayers built that wet slips. 44 of the 250 were actually Panama City residents. They operated the Marina on a loss. And they were the Marina, as in the wet slips, were gated. So Panama City taxpayers paid to subsidize someone else's boat slips. I don't think that's fair. Like, why should I pay for someone in Dothan, Alabama, Lynn Haven, Callaway, Panama City Beach to have a below market rented slip and me subsidizing it with my tax dollars?
Damn right.
But that's how government works, because what happened through the years while Panama City was managing these slips is, hey, we're raising rates. And someone would get all pissed off and they would call their elected official and be like, I'm not going to support you in the election if you let them do this. And they've just always suppressed the pricing down to keep it below market, competing against privatized businesses because they're subsidized.
Yep.
And you just had a wet slips that were $500,000 loss each year. That's not fair. Well, it'd be like me saying, hey, Panama City citizens, Ron and I want to open up a private gym on the Marina. You got to give me $12 million to build it. Sure, we'll let a few of you use it, but it'll be below market rate, and you're going to pay for it, and it'll be locked where you don't get access. It's not fair. It's like a park that's locked off from the citizens. So Panama City has moved the money that FEMA and insurance was going to give to rebuild the wet slips and moved it into the Martin Theater, which is a community use project versus privatized locked boat slips. Like, anyone can go see something at the Martin Theater. Anyone can rent the Martin Theater for a play, those kind of things. And so I don't think government should be in private businesses because government's inefficient. It'll never be run better than a citizen.
Everything they touch goes to shit.
Everything government, they're not good. No city is good at stuff.
The best
compared to the free
best
market.
thing that First Sergeant ever told to me was the government does not create anything.
They don't. Taxes do, and taxes come from us.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just say it's not free money.
Government does not create anything.
Yep. And so, the biggest concern that most citizens have is wanting access to that T-dock, the dirt, for walking, for fishing, for just seeing the sunset, driving down there and you see people just picnicking down there. So there was kind of a false concern of like, they're giving away the marina. No, we never, as a citizen, I didn't have a boat in that marina. I got yelled at by security. They had private security guarding boats that I paid for, and I couldn't go. I'm like, what in the world? And so there's a better way. I think they're going to end up doing a private-public partnership. They're still working on the details of that, of what the revenue share is and what the numbers are. I don't know those numbers. I have not studied other cities' numbers and what they've done. But private businesses do need to make money, and we shouldn't shame someone who's doing a private partnership and be like, shame on you for making money, because that's how we pay our taxes is by having revenue as private citizens. And so, and every idea can be a bad idea and a good idea at the exact same time. It's all in how it's implemented. So you can, just like you and I can eat ice cream, it can be a good thing, or we can eat too much ice cream, which is a bad thing. Yeah. And so, the Marina deal could be a bad deal for us, or it could be a good deal. It just depends on the research and the details of the deal.
I agree.
So, it's a hotbed topic because what you're seeing in that marina, which is
the
the same,
Civic Center, I know, is like the huge deal.
So it's a giant shared space. It's like the people's living room. It's where we go to gather and all those kind of things. The Civic Center, I didn't want it torn down. There's actually, in my opinion, nothing wrong with the structure of the building. The problem is the building isn't like some beautiful 1920s gargoyles or something you see in Detroit or something where there's opulence at the time. It is a 1960s building built for 1960s events, and then remodeling it is going to be more than rebuilding it. And if we rebuilt it, we could reimagine it into being what we need now. Yeah. We might, and I was in the steering committee for the Civic Center redesign, and the Civic Center redesign went like this: a bunch of citizens who care and love the city, including me, sitting with the architect, and it would be one citizen said we should have 2,500 seats. One citizen's like 3,200. One citizen's like 3,700. And I'm like, whoa! Has anyone run a Civic Center before? Why are we being asked how?
Well, first of all, they're always a money loser.
Right.
They do not make money. Like it was just, obviously I don't live in Panama City, so I have no say in the matter. But the conversation that I've had with people has been that. It's like, dude, Civic Centers are a money loser.
They are, right?
All day long.
And so, exactly. And so then you go into, Panama City has 16,000 households, 38,000 people. And the Civic Center is really a county amenity. So like the shows there, people from Lynn Haven go to them, and Callaway and the beach, and they have graduations from Arnold there and Rutherford. Why does that investment sit on the backs of us as 33,000 people? That's not fair either. So really, because the Civic Center is $100 million project or more.
Yeah.
So why am I responsible for a Civic Center for you? Unless there's, now in theory, Allan Branch, the bar owner, should be like, hell yeah, go spend some money. I'm going to sell some beer to those people. But that's not really fair. And plus, I would have to sell a crap ton of beer to make up for a $100 million project cost.
Yeah.
So really, if you look at how most civic centers and county amenities are built, they're built with multiple municipalities putting in money, TDC, CRA, and it comes in as a community project that doesn't sit on the backs of, because you make the investment of a $100 million civic center is one big enough that if we go, oh, we really miscalculated that. How does 33,000 people make up for $100 million oopsies?
Yeah.
We now have double property taxes, right? And so that would be like you and I. That investment is way bigger than our pants.
Yeah.
We Panama City cannot afford a $100 million investment by ourselves. No, I mean we would not recoup that money.
Yeah.
And so it just doesn't make sense. And there's some people that really want on the marina, some people that don't. I'm indifferent to all that. Some people say it would be awesome at the mall, and potentially the mall would be a better spot for other people.
Dude, I remember back when Rohan was running against Bernicki and all that, and he was that was the talk of the town then, was everybody was talking about turning the mall into like the next event place. Mm-hmm. I thought it sounded good in theory.
Yeah.
What I was more pissed off about was, and so we were talking about like code enforcement, about them not being on the ass of the property owner for not cleaning up their eyesore. Yeah. Like, I mean, dude, if you're, and I know this is going to sound mean, nasty, whatever you want to say, but like, if you're still blaming problems on today, on Hurricane Michael,
it's been a long time.
Listen, there are people that have come through and cleaned up their properties. Yeah. I don't think there's any excuse. Yeah. Sure.
And so, the mall is an interesting animal, and I have not experienced, I've never spoken to the owner. It's multiple. So most malls are owned by one person. Yeah. The anchor tenants actually all own their properties individually, and then there's a sort of an internal owner who owns parking and the internal stores. Yeah. So you have to get major corporations to all agree to do something in a time where it's like retail's dying, COVID happened, and they don't know the future of Sears and Macy's. If Allan had his magic wand, I think you have such a huge space there. To me, it'd be like, can you take just the Sears, and they are demoing it now, but sports tourism to me would be like, because my kids go to wrestling matches all over the country, and there's volleyball. It's like you have this huge just the structure. It's a giant structure of just open space. Are the ceilings high enough for basketball courts or wrestling matches, or is there a sports like what else can we use the building for? Because then if you had
your own sports team
conventions, if you had conventions there, now all of a sudden the food court pops back up because they need food services. So, looking at something for other than what it is would be interesting, but I don't know the dynamic of the mall and the owners. But it would need to be another one that's the tax incentive needs to be there because it is at a strategic location that all the cities would benefit from that. Even Lynn Haven, people would stay in Lynn. If Lynn Haven had a boutique hotel on the water and their downtown was cute, people would stay in Lynn Haven for a conference at the mall, or a concert or something like that. And so that is a better location for multi-cities to win and experience prosperity from their investment. It's what's tough is, I grew up in the 90s and we'd go to the mall to like check out chicks and go to Pocket Change. And go to Spencer's. Or Chick-fil-A was only there. But and so it's tough looking at that and going like, oh God, I used to love going to the mall. Or even the skate. When I talk about the skating rink, I'm like,
the mall. Every time I look at the mall now, I remember me and my dad. We had like it was like kind of like a tradition with him and my brother. Where every Christmas Eve we'd go to the mall. Yeah. And it was so packed. Sure. Oh my God, people were Luigi BGs. Yeah. People were parking in Luigi's BBs or Luigi BGs, and you'd walk across the street just to get there. Sure. And then, but it was awesome because it just felt. But these malls are a dying breed.
They are. That's really it's tough.
Dude, I can't remember. I mean, I go once a year. I go out to Buckle and Dillard's out in Pier Park, and I'll buy stuff for my wife and go through like a whole thing and hey, go return whatever. Yeah. But most of the time, man, we're ordering online, and it sucks because it's like, oh, support local business, and it's like, Man, it's not a saving money thing.
Sure.
It's a convenience thing.
Sure.
I can literally, like this shirt right here, retro rifle. I can sit there and I can order it from my phone at work after, oh, hey man, that's a nice shirt. Where'd you get it? Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, look, man, boom,
Yep.
I've got it. And which is also the downfall of our society, I think.
Sure. Well, and your experience with restaurants now, which is like you can have an at-home experience that's almost. I mean, I don't go to the movies anymore. I have a huge TV and a sound system, so I rarely go to movies. And so same with restaurants. You can DoorDash food here.
Yeah.
So retail, theaters, and even restaurants are now having to be more experiential because why leave your house and go watch a movie with a bunch of kids screaming in the back throwing candy when I can watch the same movie at my house in my underwear?
Well, that's the thing. You want to go somewhere with a unique experience, you know. That's the reason why I really think that the mom and pop places do better here than all of these, you know, huge corporations. You know, I was just talking about this on my podcast the other day when we were doing the beer. It was one of those things where it's like, yeah, man, like when we go somewhere and go visit somewhere, the first thing that we do is search for the local brewery, search for the local distillery. We want to get a taste of the atmosphere that we're in. And then they're always something unique.
Sure.
You know, with her history class, I mean, you go down there and history class is one of those places you walk in and it's exactly what it says. It's a history class. It has everything all over the walls. Has to do with the past of Bay County. I've gone in there and I've spent 20, 30 minutes after eating, you know, and just been like, oh, wow, I didn't, you know, and it's just, it's kind of cool. Even for somebody that's grown up here.
Sure.
But like going into a Cheddar's.
I love a Cheddar's burger. They got the onions and the big.
But you know, you go into like an Applebee's or something like that, and it's just like, it's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
like,
it's weird. You know, the franchises, and there's nothing. I'm not harping on those owners; they're not evil people. But you go to any city in America, and it almost feels the same now. It's like, unless you go to the local ones, unless you go to those local places, it feels like, oh, there's a Dollar General, an Applebee's, a Cracker Barrel. And that's not what makes town special. What makes town special is that local ownership. I've always said with history class, but even El Weirdo, the price of admission to the experience is a beer.
Man, I complained about it. I'm not gonna lie. The other day, I told my buddy Alex, I was like, dang, dude, you know how much 3 of these growlers?
Yeah, well, they're 2 beers per growler. Though.
Yeah. He's like, I was like, it's $44. He's like, $44. And I was
he guessed 40. I watched that episode. He said 40.
Yeah, he said 40. And I was like, yeah, man, like this is, it's a, like we sat there. And then what was the first thing that came out of our mouth? Oh, that's good.
Sure.
Like, is it worth it? He's like,
yeah,
I'd pay that.
It's tough,
for it.
you know, because you want to be you don't want to be the cheapest, but you don't want to be unaffordable. And so it's tough. Food is actually easier because you could literally look at our menu and say 1/3 of that price is the food cost.
Yeah, but here's the deal. Yeah. If you were charging that much for a beer that you didn't brew there, you're kind of a dick.
Sure.
But the fact that it's brewed there, you guys went through the blood, sweat, and tears on it, and it's a local spot.
Yeah.
There are certain restaurants and certain places, even in this town, where they're charging that for something that they did not put together.
Well, and Michelob Ultras, people are selling Michelob Ultra for craft beer prices around town.
Are they really?
Yeah, I'm like, you paid $1.50 for this beer, and you're selling it for $7-8 a pint.
Ooh.
So I'm not going to name names, but that to me is a tougher. You know, I think people realize when you're buying things, you're voting with your dollars of what you want to see.
Yeah.
And so to me, when you're spending money locally, and especially that you're saying, I want to see, and that I've said this numerous times, I said history class was a bet that this town would appreciate their history.
Yeah. And
El Weirdo was a bet that this town wanted to see their artists succeed. And so we put $140,000 of art in that building at El Weirdo, and all local artists. Yeah. And so that is a big bet. That's the biggest art installation in the county, right? And so it's tough. And so so it's like, hey, we're going to show you 2 things that in Panama City, you know, every small town often everyone tries to fit in. So when you do that, you're celebrating being ordinary. And I wanted to create 2 things that were a little bit more than what we currently had. And that's a risk. It's much easier, again, to copy people.
Yeah.
I'm often really depressed when I see I shouldn't say about, I'm like, this is when someone opens a business, they're risking everything they have. And I'm always like, this is your most creative shot at this? Like, this is like, you know, when you're naming your business, like, that's the name that you're willing to.
It could be the reason why a lot of businesses aren't successful. It's because they didn't really grab after the fact of like, hey man, this is yours.
Yeah,
you get to do whatever you want.
You can call it whatever you want.
You get, you know, I mean, and
you pick the same plates that everyone else has and the same chairs everyone else has, the same name. And so, you know, even with history class, we don't spend any money on marketing, not a penny on paid marketing. Now we have a full-time. We actually spend about $150,000 a year on marketing, but it's just not ads. We create videos. We donated $27,000 last year in cash to nonprofits. There's not another restaurant that does that in this town. And that's what I'm the most proud of, you know, like, so I always try to make sure the employees, like when we give a check, I'm not the one handing the check. Yeah. Because I had very little to do with that check. That was the employees, and that money came from this community. Yeah. And so I love it that a bartender gets to present a check to a nonprofit. And they get to hear all that. Thank you so much. And they hear all that thanks. Yeah. That means a lot to people that are in that business every day. And so there's a lot of cool stuff that history class has given us the ability to do and change the dynamics of the way people are treated in food and beverage businesses. And all those were risks that we took. And so I'm really proud of those businesses. Not that they're perfect. Yeah. Because we're not perfect people, but I'm very, very proud of those businesses. Yeah. So my family's owned restaurants in this town. Jimmy's Drive-In, Tally Ho. Those were all started by my grandfather.
Oh, were they really?
Yeah.
No way. Yeah. Tally Ho?
Yeah.
My grandfather took my grandmother there for their honeymoon.
Yeah.
From Mariana. Sure. My family's from Mariana. Yeah. And 231 was a dirt road.
Sure.
And they drove all the way down, and that is where they... I know it sounds to the listener, they're going to be like, what? And I'll be like, hey, by the way, Mariana was a farming town. Sure. It was a poor town. Sure. And my grandfather took my grandmother there for their...
and going out to eat was a big deal then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it is now. People eat out all the time. So my grandfather they moved from Tallahassee, and they started Tally Ho and Jimmy's and Speedy Car Wash, which originally was Jimmy's Car Wash. The Chicken Box, which was on 15th Street, was theirs too. But they had restaurants in Columbus, Georgia, and car washes in Columbus, Georgia, Tallahassee, Panama City, and Pensacola. And then he died. My grandfather died in 1963. 3. When my dad was like 9 years old. So I never got to meet my grandfather. He was kind of a nefarious character in town. But those businesses were run by they were rented out for a while. My aunt ran the car washes for a while. And my dad took over the car washes in the early 80s. He taught at Mowat for a few years teaching math. And I grew up in the car wash business, and my uncle ran the restaurants. My cousin still runs Tally Ho, Natalie. She went to Mosley. Yeah. And I'm like that. I'm super proud of that. Like, it's so rare to have businesses that last more than 5 years, let alone like 70 or 80 years. And Tally Ho is so good. But the funny thing is, I agree.
Dude,
big sloppy burgers.
I have got to stay away from that place.
Their onion rings is what's so funny is I've eaten there a million times, and people will be like, oh, you should try the barbecue sandwich. I'm like, there's a barbecue sandwich? There's things on the menu I didn't even know they had.
Barbecue sandwich.
I've eaten like the Cuban and the cheeseburger, and that's about it. I've literally eaten there 10,000 times. I order the same 2 or 3 things.
Used to get the turkey club.
Turkey club's good too.
Because I went to Bay High, so I was right there. And
so,
and then you're not allowed to leave campus as an underclassman. But I used to.
Oh yeah, I got caught. Andy Smith caught us. It was the SRO at Bay High, and my friends and I had erased the year off of our ID, and he pulled us over, and I was playing football, and he knew who I was, and he's like, what grade are you guys in? I was like, oh, we're seniors. And he's like, I know who you are. And I'm telling Coach Scroggins that you got one off campus. And I was like, oh, God. And he's like, why isn't the grade level on your ID? And I was like, I must have misprinted. And I never ran so much at practice that I did that day. They ran my ass off at practice. But I used to eat for free at Tally Ho until I got to high school. My uncle was like, my dad's name is Jimmy. He's like, Jimmy, $300 bill from Allan this month. Seriously. Yeah. And then it went down to 30%. And now it's like 10% or something.
It killed Dandy Donuts and Tally Ho.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, man. You know what, man? That's part of the history of this place. I mean, those two places there.
Oh, I when we first moved back, my son, so I'm actually James Allan Branch. So I would have been, my parents called me Allan, but my grandfather's Jimmy Branch, my dad's Jimmy Branch. I could have been Jimmy Branch, and my son's Jimmy Branch. And when I first moved back to Panama City, my son Jimmy was like 3 years old, and we were at the downtown car wash, Speedy Car Wash. They had a barber shop in the front lobby. And I was sitting there, and the barber went to Bay High like in the 50s, and he was cutting someone's hair who was also at Bay High about the same time, and they knew each other. And he said, "See that little boy there? That's Jimmy Branch the fourth."
Yeah.
And the guy kind of paused, and he told the story. He said, "My wife and I actually went on our first date to Jimmy's." And he said, we were sitting at a booth and we ordered the rainbow drink, which was the thing they had in the 50s. And it was like lemonade and then cherry juice and Coca-Cola and then something. It had like a layer, so it looked like a rainbow.
Yeah.
And she said, "You're trying to get me liquored up so you can get frisky." And he said, No. And then he said, "Oh, we ended up getting married." But she had just passed away. He starts crying.
Ooh.
And I literally just got chills from that. And it was in that moment where I realized that these little insignificant, small local businesses matter. That's the fabric, right? And that little tiny Jimmy's it's a little tiny building. It's nothing special. Yeah. These are like, even the mall. The mall is a place of Miracle Strip. How many people had their first dates there, first kiss? All those things happen in these local places that, like the skating rink. We lived in the skating rink. We were there all the time. It's these local things that create these memories and how powerful nostalgia is in remembering those things. And so that all those stories kind of, I didn't realize how significant hamburgers and onion rings and milkshakes were to a community until you start hearing all these stories. The way I grew up in this town, and I tell people this, like, you know, having a last name Keel and Branch is very recognizable. It's not like Smith or Jones. And so I would, as a kid growing up here, I would meet a teacher or a cop would pull me over, or meet a coach or meet someone at wherever, and they would say, "Oh, Branch." Like the branches who own Tally Ho, the branches, and then they would have some, or the branches. I still run into people who my grandmother taught at Panama Grammar in the first grade in the 70s. And they'll say, "Oh," and there was always a tie back to how the families knew each other. A kind, like, "Oh, we love the onion rings," just like you were like, "Oh, Tally Ho." There was always some little common thing of like appreciation for that thing that I didn't create, had nothing to do with. And then I got kind words because of my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, my dad, mom, and second chances when I didn't deserve them, third chances when I didn't deserve, all because of these businesses and this family who had done good things in this community. I benefited from that. Right. And so, like, when I got pulled over for speeding somewhere as a dumb teenager, the cop was nicer to me because my dad washed all the cop cars for free. Or they knew my uncle was the clerk of the court. And so all these times as a teenager, I would do something dumb and they'd be like, boop, and they'd bump me back in my lane, like bumpers at a bowling alley. And so and then the kind words were just poured into me. And then so as I became successful in my career with software, I realized that I'm really just not that smart. And I go like, well, why do I have this confidence and that I can just do things? And it's because my whole life, people just poured kind words and second chances into me. And that's why I also have these sort of rose-colored glasses of this community, because I just I thought it was normal to grow up like that. I didn't realize that everyone didn't get the things that I got of just nice words of affirmation and kindness. And so, like, that's what I want everyone to grow up with. And so it was just an idyllic childhood.
I think that gets into like raising your kids.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, when I was growing up, you know, both my parents were really, really young parents. And so, and they raised me and my brother fairly strict. And then I did notice, you know, now that I'm older, that the kids that their parents were older, a little bit more mature, and then they had a little bit of leniency with it. Those guys actually turned out to be pretty decent dudes. Like, and, you know, for, you know, obviously me and my brother were very disciplined individuals. We're very, you know, by the book, you know, whatever. And then I still get around my buddies that, you know, had parents similar to yours. And it's just kind of like, dude, you only go around the track once, dude. Why are you complicating the shit out of this? And it's like, yeah, man, you know, and that's the reason why, you know, here lately, I've even been looking at my son and my daughter, and I got to sit there and be like, you know what? You're only going to get to be a kid one time, and you're going to get to me, and then you're going to wish that you would have enjoyed being a kid more. And so, no, man, dude, I think that's great. And no, the second chances and stuff like that. And, man, words are very, very powerful. I'm learning it more and more as my kids grow up. Things that I wouldn't normally think about. And you watch your kids and you say something and they're like, And it's like, you know what? That was mean.
Sure. Yeah, my parents would always say things too, like, especially as I became older, like 16, they would say, don't go out to the beach and do something stupid because it's going to be on the news, and then everyone's going to say Jimmy Branch's son who owns Speedy Car Wash did blah, 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 and then no one's going to come to the car wash, and you're going to ruin our reputation.
That's another aspect of it that a lot of people don't talk about now. So I have a friend of mine whose dad was very, very influential in the community.
Yeah.
Both of him and I went to Arnold together.
Yeah.
And I mean, his dad was, and held one of those local elected positions. And it was like him being like, oh no, man, I can't be caught out there because and so there, everybody wants to talk about how like, oh, the dude was born on a silver spoon. Everything's always been handed to him. And it's like, hey, you know what? Life isn't so great for him either in some aspects where there's another level to everything. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, whenever you grow up.
They say opportunity, but it's also obligation.
Responsibility.
My son has a silver Jeep Wrangler, and people all over town, because he has like the big high wrestling sticker on it. And I have friends that say, your son, he did fully stop at the 4-way stop. They send me a picture. It always makes me very proud. I love that I had eyes on me, watching me, judging me, but also bumping me back in the lane.
Yeah.
And my kids have that too. There's a privilege of that, of and responsibility with that. There's eyes, and but I thought everyone grew up that way, and they don't.
No.
It wasn't until I moved. We lived in Birmingham, played football at UAB in college, and my transmission went out on my expedition, and we were engaged at the time, and I said, who's your family transmission guy? And she said, what? And I said, you don't have some guy with a shed in his backyard that you bring your truck to.
Yeah,
Because
right.
my dad my family had a paper tab at Boyd and Casey until literally my grandfather started a tab at Boyd and Casey in the 40s.
Yeah.
That we still had until they closed.
Yeah.
And so that was just, I would go to a tire shop and be like, charge these to Speedy Car Wash. They'd be like, okay, we got that account. Boop,
Oh
and
my
so
God.
That's just how.
That's crazy.
So my dad had guys, people he went to high school with. Oh yeah, you need this repaired, go talk to this guy.
I'll call your dad. He'll pick up the bill later.
Yeah. Well, I worked a lot too. I say I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I was born with a silver shovel in my hands.
Yeah.
Because we worked at the car wash all the time. So we were always, the child labor was very enforced. We were always folding towels at age 10 and washing cars all through high school and college.
Yeah, Speedy, right there by Bay Med.
Yeah, right by Jimmy's Drive-In. Yeah, my dad actually grew up at 7th and Massillon. There's a white house behind old Jimmy's, and that was where my dad grew up.
Yeah, I've been through there quite a few times
growing
up.
And if you were there between 1993 and 99, you probably saw me on a Saturday. I was probably washing cars.
Yeah, probably did go through there with my mom.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we washed a lot of cars. I worked at car washes in college too.
Yeah.
Even during the football season, or actually in the off season when I played football. But we worked a lot.
I was really, Waterworks.
No, there's no car wash there anymore.
Well, no. I know that, but what I'm saying is Waterworks was like that last
full service.
I missed that.
Yeah,
it sucks
the
now.
labor. Yeah.
Like I got to do it myself.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I used to love. It's just like
and then taking care of you. It's kind of a lost, dying breed model of car washing. In fact, that model of car washing where you wash it yourself was actually invented by my dad's friend in Baton Rouge. The second version of that car wash was Panama City, my dad's car wash.
Yeah.
So, and that's what people know of car washes now. It was started in Panama City and Baton Rouge.
Man.
By my dad and his friends. Yeah. So
I missed that because it was just like, get out of the car, go grab a Coke. They get the
go
entire interior.
Yeah. Get your shoes shined.
Yeah.
That was the whole, my dad even said, like, he said, in the 70s and 80s and 90s, the car wash on a Saturday was the place to go see people, especially if you were like a banker and you wanted to see some customers. You would go get your shoes shined and people would pass by and you'd see people. It was like a place to business people.
Network.
Yeah, totally. That's what it was. So,
all right.
Changing times.
That's crazy, man. Yeah. Well,
We've talked a lot. We're like 2 hours in.
Yeah. We don't have to. we can wrap it up, but I was just about to go into. So you've seen Bay County change.
Well, I was born in 1980, so yeah, I'm 43. So
I mean, it's changed a lot
Yeah.
over the years for you. I mean, you remember
every
back
time
when there was hardly any condos on the beach.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, my parents remember driving their Jeeps over the sand dunes, having bonfires and stuff like that. But
back when you could drive on the beach.
Back on the beach, back in the 50s, and they ruined it for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, back when you could buy a house, that's where you kind of touched on short-term rentals, and what the short-term rental, and these people who own short-term rentals are not evil. They're not evil people, but those properties that used to be people buying homes and living full time there. Used to, when I was a kid, you could buy a home, kind of, 3 blocks from the beach for $100,000, and you would have waiters and waitresses buying homes. And now, and what short-term rentals and Airbnb does is pulls things off of the market, because you can rent something for a week and a half, 2 weeks, and make your mortgage payment. So things are just sitting empty, like you said, and they've pulled that inventory off, and it pushes everyone off the beat. And it's happened all over the country, but it is a shame that you can't buy. I mean, my partner in history class, Tim Whaler, grew up in a trailer park. His dad was a contractor, bought the house for the trailer for like $40,000, like in the 80s, lived like 4 blocks off the beach. You can't do that anymore. You can't live that cheap and that sort of proximity to paradise.
Yeah. That, yep. And then I remember even as a kid growing up, the sand would bark.
Yeah, the sand would bark.
There, and then you could see. I mean, you could drive all the way down the beach, and
so you can't see. It's like being in a valley now.
Well, it's so crazy because it's like I'm not that old. Well, I guess I am. 33. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're saying that I'm young at 33, I'm not young. You're just old. Sure. Because I got gray hair. I've got 2 kids and a life insurance policy. And I take vacations to like the Smoky Mountains. So I'm old. Sure. But it is funny because my family moved here. I want to say it was 93, right at 93, and man, dude, like I said, growing up, I remember what happened. Is what my whole thing is. I've tried to go over it in my head, and the amount of time that's gone by to have the amount of condos that we have. Yeah. When they say that there was a boom, there was a boom. And I've tried to explain that to some of my friends that have come down here and visited, and be like, nah, man, I remember when the beach, there was
mom and pop hotels,
Fontainebleau, Sunbird, Sandpiper.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, then you had Ramada, and you had eventually Holiday Inn came in kind of early 90s. I actually worked security at Holiday Inn when I was in high school. Oh my god. Yeah, it was wild. But it's definitely changed. I think all across America has changed. But I remember when the bridge was the metal bridge. My parents remember it was the 2-lane bridge, and so it's definitely grown up. But
I'll let you get out of here. Yeah. I didn't talk your head off.
No, I've had fun. I love talking about. I wish I was around and aware enough what happened in the 90s to sort of set us up for rapid growth.
We have seen it, and it's not scary, but it's almost to the fact of like, man, dude, it was, like I said, it was like you blinked, and then there's just condos everywhere. I don't remember a time going through life where I saw all this construction going on. I guess that's the thing.
You're probably like deployed or not, you weren't here.
'Cause I didn't go in until 2017.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that I was a late bloomer. I didn't go in the military until I was 26.
Oh, that's right. I saw that because you were complaining about an officer who's 21.
No, NCO.
NCO, excuse me.
Yeah, 21 years old, E5. Man, he only been in the Army for like 2 years, 3 years. And it was like, dude, I need you.
Yeah, you called it a humbling experience. See, I listened. I listened to
extremely humbling experience when you got, I don't know if you'd call it a humbling. Yeah, it's a humbling experience.
Sure.
Because it's like you've got a guy that's been in the military for 3 years, and then you're just like this nobody. And everybody's a nobody until, even if somebody who's in the military who thinks they're somebody, they're a nobody. It's a numbers game.
A 21-year-old with authority is always scary.
What now?
A 21-year-old with authority. Because I know what I was like when 21. So.
Well, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's different when you're in the military." No, it's not. It is not. It's actually worse because these guys have way more skill behind them for being 21. That was interesting portion of my life was going And then of course I went to one of the most elite units in the Army.
Very cool.
And so that was it was a great time in my life. God got me through it, but I'm out of it now.
Sure.
Say we're no longer playing soldier anymore. But well, no, that's cool that you did listen. I know that you've listened to a couple. No,
I listened to the most of the beer one, and then I watched. Was it Regina or Lauren? The woman that sat here that was like
Elena.
She was with the presidential pictures.
Yeah,
I'm about 20 minutes into that one.
Elena Raps. Yeah, dude, her story's crazy.
Yeah, she seems super cool.
Dude.
She local?
Yeah.
Wow.
Lives in Chipley.
Yeah.
She's part of the Garden Club in Lynn Haven and Chipley, and then she volunteers with Girls Inc. and
Love it.
Guardian at Lightem program, which is a pretty interesting program. She explained it on the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she's traveled with Bush, Obama, Trump, and Pence all over the world.
Sure.
And taking their pictures, and then and of course she started out as a combat photographer. Mm-hmm. Dude, that woman is pretty amazing. Came out as a first sergeant, so I mean, has a impeccable record. And due to some of the views that I've had on her thing, she must have been really well liked, because 4,000 people don't know who I am yet, so that's how many views we got on her so far.
Yeah, wow.
4,000.
You'll get at least 3. My parents will watch this.
And that's the reason why it's like, and I love you, Daddy.
If you're watching,
yeah.
please cook dinner on Sunday night, Mom.
Yeah.